all seem to think that there's like a political solution to man's problems, and really the whole of modernity is built on this neo-pagan concept of political salvation. And there is no political salvation for man, because man's problems are not essentially political, they're spiritual.
Welcome. Welcome. Let's get this kicking. Let's get it popping.
Politically. And this is what so many people in alt circles and alt-right.
Whoop. I'm going to let people roll in. I'm trying to get a little music going here, but I keep screwing it up. Beep, boop. Boop, boop, beep. Beep, boop. Boop, boop, beep. Welcome to Election Stream. Beep, boop. Boop, boop, beep.
All of this was laid out. Our civilization, man has dignity because he's made in the image of God. In Plato's Athens civilization, man has no dignity. So these two grounding basic principles are fighting against one another, right? In Plato's philosophy, the state is God. It's embodied in the philosopher king. It's basically like Pharaoh type stuff, right? Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, is the opposition to that. Now, does that mean that it is egalitarian and wipes everything out? Absolutely not. There ain't a bit of egalitarianism in the last 1,960 years of Christianity. And everybody who knows anything knows that. So be honest with yourselves. Why can't you, especially you liberal lying church leaders? People are disgusting. Thus, my point is that what all this echo chamber alternative media crap is a waste of time. It's pointless. I mean, yes, it's good for waking people up, but you don't have models of how to erect civilizations. You have nothing. I'm telling you, we have an existing structure of the Orthodox Church that contains all the truths that we need to erect this great civilization that's already been erected in the past. Now, can we go back in time? Redo Byzantium? No. But we can build on what is still there, what's left, ruins, right? Standing on the shoulders of giants, basically. And when you read these books, when you get an idea of civilizational studies, and you grow out of just a very naive biological racial determinism, that's not everything, man. There's more to reality, to life than race. Man is a spirit. Men are all, there's obviously some aspect to which all men share manhood. So does that mean that we go with the universal and we blend everybody into a giant blob of no individuals? No. That's the error of collectivism, one in the many, dialectic. We don't do dialectics. We believe in a balance because in the triad there's a balance. In the church there's a balance. In the imperium there's a balance between the ethnos, right, and the leadership. All of this was laid out for a thousand years in the church. Especially the later church fathers.
Nicolas Cage's nanobot ninnies, nullifying neophytes, nasty nuptials. Remember the day after, the 5th of November. Victuals, vandalizing the vendetta, for which there is me, Nicolas Cage to save America. Welcome. Did you vote? Did you vote yet? Did you cast your ballots? Did you bombastically bombard the ballots with the bitches and boobies boundlessly breaking forth at the ballot boxes? Did you brandish broadswords? Did you buy fiat currencies? Did you... I'm running out of alliterations. It's voting day. Remember to vote the day after the 5th of November. That's a little poem from V. A little bit of poem from V. Let's find a nice little poem from V. V for voting. Let's see here. Buzzcut buzzwords from buzzards at BuzzFeed, buzzing pleasantly with bazookas of buxom blondes, blows by the bollocks and bullywalls, boom boxes, and bejeweled, bedazzled benzates and benzedrine, box bowling box like the Byzantine Bizbowl boys. Brazenly bumpkins, blackly boy-chicking, bluffly and brusly, blitzy blitzed, boxwood blazons and blee-fleckled bruxism, bonanza benzol benzene rings. We need a Nic Cage one. Let's see. Let's do it in. This is the letter B. We don't want B. Let's see. In alliteration. We need rhymes for Nic Cage. Can everybody hear me? Can I be heard? Can I be hearded? Is everything froze up? Can y'all hear me? Cocaine. I don't do no drugs, dog. I don't do no cocaine. Yeah, we're gonna be talking Nick here in a bit. Did you vote? Did you vote? Let's see. 100. Let's see. Let's do ends. Naked nails, narrowly nativizing our nation, naturally nausea, and negligent neighbors needing Nicolas Cage. All right, that's enough of that. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Everybody can hear. Everybody can vote. Did you vote for Nic Cage and J. Dyer 2020? Save America stream. Dog. We are running on the National Treasure ticket, National Treasure Party. Sponsored by Con Air Airlines. We'll have a word from John Malkovich a little bit later on that. We'll also be speaking to internet personality Chills, Maxine Waters. We had requests here for more karaoke. Hopefully I'll have the energy for that. We had, let's see, requests for Nicolas Cage. Obviously he's going to be intermittently possessing my body on this election day. We're also going to have some of the Boiler Room crew coming up in here pretty soon. And we're going to get into National Treasure 2, and Con Air. Not sure what order we'll do that. I don't guess it really matters what order, but we'll also be checking in on the vital, important election, right? America's future in the balance. America's future hangs in the balance. And I told the story when I went to get this mask. I asked for a Guy Fawkes mask, and the guy was like, "Who? What? What?" I explained it like 5 times, and every time I explained it, he goes, "What? What?" All right. So we got 150 nerds. We're going to let the nerds pile in, and we're going to start in on this analysis. I think Hesh is rebooting his stream, so how about a little bit of karaoke? A little karaoke. And see. We had a request for... Actually, somebody sent me. Watch it be a virus or something. Let me take this stupid mask off. Ugh. Somebody sent some music and said, sing to these. I said, okay. And this is our friend subscriber Scott. He sent some different musical tunes here to improv to. So I don't actually know what these sound like. I have not heard them. So this is new to me. We'll see what we got going here. This one is called Ben Shapiro Transhumanism. Ben Shapiro. Robot Ben. Ben Shapiro. I wish you were a real character in my RPG. Ben Shapiro, why are you in my RPG like an NPC? This song has a very new wave vibe, just like the vibe that Ben Shapiro gives off and has. This song is about Ben Shapiro, transhumanism. Why is Ben Shapiro into transhumanism? Why is Ben Shapiro an RPG? Why is infantry? Yeah, so this is kind of fun, actually. All right, thank you guys for the super chats. We'll read those here in a little bit intermittently throughout the stream. Doing a little bit of musical interlude here, requests, high karaoke requests, and New Wave Ben Shapiro. It's the first one that came up. Ben Shapiro, why aren't you real? Ben Shapiro, why did you prosecute OJ? Ben Shapiro, why did you not become real like a real boy? Pinocchio Shapiro, why aren't you very real? In my RPG, you're an NPC. Alright, that's enough of that one. What do you think? That was decent improv there for... I never heard that song and immediately gave me the new wave kind of like, New Order or vibe, something like that. Alright, let's see. We have another song here. And this one is, I think, reggae. It's called Smoke That Weed. We got to steal the Declaration of Independence and also steal the Constitution. Why? Because we needed rolling papers. We didn't have enough. We needed rolling papers. And we were patriotic like Nicolas Cage. It's called Americage. We needed rolling papers like Nicolas Cage. Americage. We stole the Constitution, cause we needed some rolling papers. It looked very thin and flimsy like brown paper that you used to roll things with, to smoke with. It looked like an old, big rolling paper that was autographed by a lot of Masons. Autographed rolling papers. Autographed by the Masons. George Washington smoked it too. All right. Thank you, Scott. Island Reggae. And I think we have one more from Scott here. That wasn't bad for improv. Nic Cage needed a rolling paper. This is called Bleep Bloops. Okay. What do we got here? Oh, this is emotional. I'm feeling it. What happened to America? You've gone down the drain. You stood for freedom, eagle claw in the rain. And now you're down the drain. What happened to America? You used to be able to vote and get all your dreams and wishes delivered to you. And now there's Twitter and Facebook and MySpace too, ruining our landscape and our schools. Bubblegum used to have sugar, and now it has aspartame. The streets used to be paved with gold, and now they're paved with the tears of crying Indian children. You see what I mean? You feel me? This is the rap interlude. America, what's happened to you? You're just an eagle's claw, crying in the rain. You've lost all your brains and now you import them from Asiatic countries. America, what's happened to you? We used to be able to vote and freely cook stew. Now it's all GMO and vegan. America's gone vegan. Vegan. No more vegan gains with soy boys. Solo. America, what's happened to you? You've gone GMO. Alright, that one was fun. Alright. People in the chat are like, what is going on? What the heck? They're like, I'm going to go watch Sticks. Y'all don't like these songs? I'm having fun. Everybody's got the feels. Yeah, dude. I was feeling that too. I think we got one more song. Where'd it go? From our friend Scott. Was that it? That might be the last one. No, we got one more. Feeling it. Yeah. This is going to be real experimental by me. Thank you, Scott, for the backups for this music from Scott. All right. Okay. Where's it going? Come on, Scott. Where are you going with it? Beep, beep, beep. Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, Rihanna, Katy Perry, Ariana Grande, Madison Beer, Madonna, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, Nicki Minaj, Michael Jackson, Miley Cyrus, Justin Timberlake, Mariah Carey, Adele, Christina Aguilera, Ed Sheeran, Bruno Mars, and Drake, and Prince, and J-Lo, and Elton John, and Whitney Houston, and Cher, and Demi Lovato, and Lorde, and David Bowie, and Kanye, and Janet Jackson, and Elvis, and Selena Gomez, and Jay-Z, George Michael, and Shawn Mendes, Eminem, and Ellie Goulding, Harry Styles, and Rita Ora, Zayn Malik, and Cheryl Halsey, not the YouTube Halsey, Kylie Minogue, and Kesha, Tina Turner, and Pink, and Bruce Springsteen too. All right, I don't like that one. There wasn't much going on in that. All right, so I think we're going to bring in the Boiler Room crew. Bring in the Boiler Room crew, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, it should have been faster, but I didn't know. I had not heard any of the musical interludes that that Scott sent me, so that was fun though. Get some of that Monarch rap going. Monarch MK Ultra. Let's get the Boiler Room crew up in here. Let's see. There's what else is in Con Air has that stupid ass. Remember Leanne Rhymes? Leanne Busta Rhymes. And she had a Con Air song. What's it called? I think I'm getting sick. Shit, man. How do I... Karaoke streams are fun. I guess I'm new to this. Like karaoke's been around for decades, and I'm just now hearing about it. What's her
football talent, celebrity musician, explore.
Con Air song?
Welcome to Finding Football.
Let's see. How do I get through a night without you? If I had to live without you. Baby, you would take away everything good in my life. Alright, no, I can't do that. That's too gay. Alright. What's up, dude?
Hey, man.
What's up? You just saved the audience from me singing Leanne Rhymes karaoke.
Well, you sound hella robotic. I didn't hear that. Say again?
Said you just saved the audience from me singing Leanne Rhymes karaoke.
I don't know if me sitting here eating apples is going to be much better.
Oh, wait. I don't have the other microphone plugged in. That's why I sound like shit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds a little warm.
Do you want to call back in a little bit and see if the line's better? And I'll have it set up.
Yeah, I'll call you back in like a minute or less?
Give me about 5 or 10.
Okay. All right, cool.
All right.
All right, bye.
Hopefully this is not one of those shitty Skype days. I hate those.
Yeah, seriously.
All right.
All right, I'll call you back.
All right. And let's see.
Man has dignity.
Let me hook up the other microphone. I'll be right back.
Image of God. In Plato's Athens civilization, man has no dignity. So these two grounding basic principles are fighting against one another, right? In Plato's philosophy, the state is God. It's embodied in the philosopher king. It's basically like Pharaoh type stuff, right? Christianity, Orthodox Christianity, is the opposition to that. Now, does that mean that it is egalitarian and wipes everything out? Absolutely not. There ain't a bit of egalitarianism in the last 1,960 years of Christianity. And everybody who knows anything knows that. So be honest with yourselves. Why can't you, especially you liberal lying church leaders? People are disgusting. Thus, my point is that what all this echo chamber alternative media crap is a waste of time. It's pointless. I mean, yes, it's good for waking people up, but you don't have models of how to erect civilizations. You have nothing. I'm telling you, we have an existing structure of the Orthodox Church that contains all the truths that we need.
All right, so it's like there's commercial breaks with me. It's like Alex Jones over here, where when I go to a commercial break, you hear me. Yeah, I got a Discord, dog, but it seems like a big time waster. And I don't do no call-in thing. I mean, we could do it through Discord, but might as well just do it like it is, because Boiler Room doesn't use Discord. Be honest with yourself, guys. Skype is for boomers. MySpace is for teens and tweens. Tom from MySpace, we're going to get a social network going. All right, thank you guys. We'll read a couple super chats here. Thanks for all you do, Acrobat Jesus. Thank you, Acrobat Jesus, for all you do. And thank you to the Jay's Analysis listeners. It wouldn't be possible without you. And I must mention that we were a little bit behind because of this week's controversies on the part 2 for the Walter book, Operation Mind Control. That will be posted tonight. I have the book finished, and I will finish the part 2 lecture and have that uploaded tonight. So no worries there. Don't get your pantoise in a twist. Don't get your V for Vendetta underoos bundled up. And let's see. Thank you, everybody, for the Halloween stream. That was a lot of fun. The Lost Boys soundtrack, that was fun. Scent. And waiting on Hesh, but he's going to call in here in a minute, I'm sure. So let's talk a little bit about National Treasure. Does everybody remember National Treasure? Oh, yeah. You wrote in Sam Hyde for Massachusetts governor. Why would you write in Sam Hyde for that? Sam Hyde is a known killer. He's responsible for multiple events, shooting events. A very bad man. Can't believe you would write him in. Paul Albert. Does anyone remember Brewster's Millions? Yeah, dude. I watched Brewster's Millions not too long ago. Forget what for. But yes. Richard Pryor had to spend $30 million in 30 days, so he ran a political campaign for none of the above and won. Good point. Be sure to vote. Elect me president. I'm gonna immediately turn it into a Orthodox Imperium by fiat. And I forgot too. Freaking Cry Little Sister. That I forgot that stupid song when I was doing the Lost Boy stream. That one's as funny as the Sexy Sax Man stream. Cry, little sister, thou shalt not steal. Cry, cry to your mama. Gothic gayness at its finest. Discord link, please, Boomer. I don't ever use the Discord link, so you join my Discord, you just be doing nothing. So anyway, if you haven't seen Cry Little Sister, there's also a fat guy who does a cover of it. I'll show you this. This is, oh dude, I'm so tempted to play his video. You think he'd report me? I don't know, that'd be fair use, wouldn't it? Dude, this shit is funny. Harikari, I think that's his name, on Twitter sent me this. Really funny stuff. This dude is so emotional. You know what? I almost want to risk playing it. Like, I'll risk the stream because this guy's too good. Oh shit, where is it? I thought it was in the history. My history is all hide videos. Dang it. I almost wanted to recreate. I had the idea that how funny it would be to recreate this guy's video. Like scene for scene. That would be awesome. And then of course Nic Cage screaming in Mandy. We should play that tonight. And the Nic Cage apologetics scene should also be played if I can get away with it. If you remember in Con Air, his black guy friend who has the Beatus. Thank you, Wilfred Brimley, for giving the Beatus to everybody. Nic Cage is on a hellbent ranger mission, not just to save the stuffed bunny for his daughter, but also to save his atheist black guy friend to convince him God exists. And the black guy's about to die from not getting his insulin shot. And there's a beautiful moving scene where one Nic Cage tear, I would say, converts the black guy. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to show you God exists." Nic Cage's southern accent, by the way, is also not very good. So, all right, I can't resist it. I got to play this guy's video, or at least a little bit of it. That way, if I play a little bit of it, I won't get flagged. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I got to go to my messages and response, tweets and replies. Give me just a second here. I'll pull it up. Trust me, it's worth it. This is too gold not to watch. This is awesome. And this guy, dude, he thought, I bet when he made this video, because he probably spent at least like a week making this video. And then when he uploaded it, can you imagine what was going through his head? He was like, dude, this video is the effing bomb, dude. I have just made some of the cool, most epic shite ever. Oh shit, all my stream is a bunch of... Oh wait, here we go. Come on now. Shoot. That sounds like yeah, I mean, John Malkovich, by the way, dude, in this movie, he's got like he's got a lisp from Gay Heck, dude. And I thought, oh well, I guess John Malkovich is a non-straight man. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Jim Kari, Jim Giroux. Oh, dude, where'd he go? Ah, no, did he take it down? No, surely not. Just a second. I apologize. It's going to be worth it. Hold on. I was just reminded of this. And this sweet follower, Jim Kari, Jim Giroux, and we'll bring Husher on here in a second. It won't just be me blabbering. Oh, dude, I bet he deleted it. Damn it. You can't find this guy's... It's one of the best videos ever. Shit. He's done deleted it, didn't he? Nope. Got it. Awesome. Okay. Oh, man, if I play it, though, shit, it's going to... He has 3 subscribers and 100 views. I don't think I'm gonna be in trouble playing this guy's thing. This is just the addendum because we didn't get to this in the other stream. Oh, but see, he's singing the song. Ah, damn it, it won't work because he's singing the copyrighted song. Shoot fire. Well, I'll tell you what. You can go watch this on your own. I'll link it below. It's just as good. We'll go ahead and bring Hesher on. It's just as good as anything that we had on the Lost Boys stream. Cry Little Sister cover, and it's the Michael Davis channel. The best part is when he films from his shower in an emotional shower scene. All right, so I'll put this link below. But if I play it, it's going to flag it. And by the way, I realize when videos get flagged by the copyright, they don't get promoted in the algorithm. That's something I never realized, and obviously that's true. 250 nerds. All right, so let's get Hesher in here. Hopefully the connection will be good this time. It won't be shit connection. And we're going to start breaking down National Treasure. National Treasure. Well, National Treasure. No, National Treasure. That's fierce coke-driven Nic Cage. Alex might call in. We'll see. Thou shalt not steal, cry, little sister. All right, can you hear me? Hello, Hesh. Well, shit. Just 1 second here. I'm trying to get Hesher in here.
Jason Zymack, disconnected.
Yo,
What's up, dude?
how's it going, man?
You're sounding good now. I'm just trying to get you on the right speaker.
All right, cool.
Hold on 1 sec.
All right, sounds like a better connection.
Good. Yeah, we're almost there.
Right on. I'm just eating apples into the microphone. Sorry about the crunching.
No, that's what filthy libertarians do, is eat on streams.
Yep. Dirty libertarians.
Jason's MacBook Air,
filthy,
disconnected. Ready
We're
to
almost
pair.
there.
Connected to Jason's
There we go.
iMac.
What's up, dog?
Yo, yo, yo.
Oh, perfect. You sound great.
Awesome.
Did you vote?
No,
No.
I suck.
You're going to leave our country to the degenerates?
I'm a terrible American today.
You could write in Nicolas Cage, Dyer 2020.
I promise I'll get out there in 2020 and do that.
We have a plan to restore the country. We're going to raid the hidden codes and secret facilities underneath our nation's capital to find large swaths of gold to put us back on a national treasure standard to save
Yeah,
America.
we'll clear all the debt.
Make America Cage again. We're going Maca.
Perfect.
We're going Maca. We're going Maca. Yeah, that's energized Coke fueled Cage today. Not me. I'm not.
Right.
I don't do Coke, but I'm saying Coke fueled Cage might show up today in some Americage rage.
Bitchin'. Hey, Funk Soul, you there too?
Yo, yo, yo.
Hey, man. What's going on?
What's up, Funk Soul?
I'm good.
Boiler Room Crew.
Hey, dude.
We got a few super chats too, by the way. I'm going to split those super chats with you guys. Thanks for joining me. I read those earlier. I'm not going to reread those. But when's the last time you guys watched National Treasure? I thought it would be fun to talk about 3 very American, so-called Disney version of America, Nicolas Cage movies in light of the election.
It's been a bit since I've watched National Treasure.
Do you remember all the conspiracy elements in it?
I remember it was rife with them, but I'm gonna need a refresher course here.
Yeah, I mean, it's Disney version of America, so it's Disney version of conspiracy, but there are some interesting elements to National Treasure. You know, it's all very Masonic, right? So it's like even the logo of the movie has, the Masonic emblems. Everybody remembers that, surely.
Right, yeah, it's got like the pyramid and the all-seeing eye on it, right?
Yeah. You got your all-seeing eye stuff, and then we're told that Nicolas Cage comes from an old Masonic family. All right, that's part of the plot too. Is the Benjamin Gates, and I think they have some connection to the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and they're related to Charles Carroll, who of course was an infamous Catholic Jesuit signer of the Declaration, one of the few, or the Constitution, excuse me, one of the few. And then we're told that there's a secret Templar treasure, right? And then the U.S. documents, the Constitution has this code, has a cipher for the secret Templar treasure. So we have the mythology of America, right, as this succession to the ancient mysteries, the Masonic mysteries. And there's a hidden square and compass on the Constitution. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So John Voight's like trying to tell him how to do it, and he's like, "Don't put lemon juice on there." So he's trying to squirt lemon juice on the Constitution, and they end up heating it up, and they see a square and compass. Break in here. What's up, guys? This is not a Jay Dyer lecture. This is a conversation. What's up, guys?
Yeah. Well, boy, I don't know. I haven't seen National Treasure in so long. So, what do you think, Jay? Is there really a lost Templar's treasure? That's a good question. Really out there?
Well, the story is, they found it under Solomon's temple, right? Which I think that's probably a bunch of baloney. But I tend to think a lot of those things stand for, represent something else. So the idea of lost Templar treasure is very similar to the idea of the Philosopher's Stone. So it's trying to recover something that was lost, what the alchemists call the great work, right? They're trying to perfect and repair what was lost in some ancient period of a fall, or in their view, mankind moving away from the golden age of the gods, right? These ideas suggest something was lost in ancient times. And the mysteries are all about trying to recover that through various means, and I think kind of suggests technology. I mean, what's interesting is that, Bacon wrote New Atlantis, and that's really what National Treasure is about, is that America actually is the New Atlantis, right? In the first one, it houses the secrets of the Templar treasure, and then in part 2, it's the secrets of one of the Native American tribes that had built a giant human sacrifice cult. Did you remember that?
No.
Yeah, I had forgotten that too. So I watched National Treasure 2 last night, which I'll get to that in a little bit. But, you get to the end, and they followed this trail of clues, and they end up at Mount Rushmore, and then they find an Indian cave near Mount Rushmore, which leads to an underground golden city by some ancient, Aztec, Maya, Inca type tribe. I don't remember which tribe it is. I forget which they say, but they're talking about the central sort of pyramid there, and at the top there's this big gold altar, and I forget who, Riley or Nic Cage's wife or somebody, John Voight's like, look at that amazing gold altar, and Nic Cage's like, yeah, that's where they slit the throats to allow the blood to run down the temple here. So it's actually, America's kind of like built on some ancient blood sacrifice, human cannibalism cult. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, wow.
But we don't remember that, do we, in the plot of National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets.
I'm not even sure if I ever saw Book of Secrets. I got to apologize. I'm going to
that's
kind of be a dunce when it comes to my Cage knowledge on these movies.
Well, that's okay. There's actually, I'm deep in Cage lore today, so there's no worries.
Awesome.
Actually,
I'm glad you're entrenched because I
Cage
will catch up.
Cage.
Cage.
The second one deals with John Wilkes Booth assassinating Lincoln, and that's how it starts. Whereas part 1 starts with the American Revolution, part 2 starts with the assassination of Lincoln, and they actually mention the Knights of the Golden Circle. Did you know that that's true, that John Wilkes Booth was an assassin for the Knights of the Golden Circle?
No, and what was their order all about?
That was a Confederate secret society. And when John Wilkes Booth murdered Lincoln, he supposedly hopped down from the booth, or from the thing at the opera there, down onto the stage, and shouted "Sic semper tyrannis," right? Thus always to tyrants. And then he ran off. And what's interesting about that is that John Wilkes Booth was a famous actor. So here you have a famous actor who's an assassin for the Confederates in Yankee territory, part of a secret society known as the Knights of the Golden Circle, and all that is true. And they also get into, interestingly, the relationship between the Knights of the Golden Circle and the Confederates and Albert Pike, because the villain in part 2 is played by Ed Harris, who's a descendant of Albert Pike. I believe that's right. He says he's a descendant of somebody, or he's connected to Albert Pike. So in other words, Albert Pike, helped found the Ku Klux Klan and was a Confederate general, right? The most famous Mason, Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma. So in other words, the second installment has some very interesting, real conspiratorial elements, but of course it's mixed up with all this goofy stuff. They even include the fact that the Queen was supporting the Confederacy and was for Albert Pike, which makes sense because Albert Pike was the Pope of Freemasonry. Freemasonry was centered since the 1700s in the Great Lodge of London. So the World Center for Freemasonry, obviously, Scottish Rite, that would be connected to Albert Pike. So they supported the South, right? The Queen of England supported the South because they got money from Southern cotton, right? So they needed the Southern cotton. They didn't want the North to win. But that doesn't mean that the North was good, because the North was a bunch of bankers and corporatists, like the old Yankee Rockefeller types. So you have, the Rockefellers weren't in power yet, but I'm saying that kind of people. The people who wanted to set up the factories and make everybody into wage slaves versus the older agrarian tradition of the South, right? In other words, this is all mentioned in National Treasure too.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to see it. I suck. I haven't seen it yet, but I've just been sitting back listening to you guys, and it sounds fascinating. I've got to dig into this ASAP.
Yeah, no, all this part's true. Now, of course, the movies, they both spin it like, Harvey Keitel is a Mason who works for the FBI, and he's, in on his buddies, and he helps the Gates family. And what's weird about it is that even though the movie kind of promotes Americanism, all throughout National Treasure 1 and 2, you have this view that Nicolas Cage and the Gates bloodline, John Voight's dad and all that, they're viewed like they're God people, like they have a royal bloodline almost. So the irony here is that that we have the idea that America is based around republicanism and rule of law, all this kind of stuff, and yet it seems to suggest subtly, the film does, that there's always been kind of an upper caste, an elite, in America that descend from European nobility, because that's essentially what it is. Remember when people started realizing that, the people that run America, the presidents, have had these long-time connections to nobility of Europe. I think there's something to that. I don't think that's just a wild conspiracy theory.
That's really interesting. So a kind of like a progenitor kind of bloodline type of thing going on here.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
And that makes sense because, early on, in the early period, you did have people who descended from nobility who were here, because the early colonists weren't all necessarily, ruffians and bad men. They were, I think Georgia was a penal colony, but other areas had so-called blue bloods. I mean, I think several of the early famous families in America, descended from very prominent English families. So it's not, when you think of it that way, it starts to make sense. Like the whole country, and during the Revolutionary War, it wasn't like everybody was on the side of the revolutionaries. There were plenty of, people who supported the monarchy. So there have always been people in America who have that descent, have that lineage. And the weird part is that even some of the revolutionaries are spoken this way, because did you guys, you didn't want to get into this. You guys wanted to just shoot the shit. We can talk bullshit. We don't have to talk about all this crazy stuff.
No, that's cool, man. I'm interested in it. So what's the deal with what's the deal with the founding fathers? Like, how many of them were Masons? I don't know a whole lot about that, but it's my understanding that there was a mix of Masons and Catholics.
That's a great question.
Catholics aren't permitted to be Freemasons, right?
They're not supposed to on the books, no. But that has not stopped many people from doing it anyway. So there were a few Catholics involved, not a whole lot. They were the minority, mainly the Carroll family. The Carrolls were very prominent in early America. Many of the founding fathers were either Congregationalist or Episcopalian / Anglican. So the Church of England would eventually in America be called Episcopalian. And they're a bunch of the old line Eastern elite families. Right. So they start universities. You get some of the prominent Eastern seaboard universities are started by these people, the Harvards, the Yales, all that kind of stuff. And they've always retained a pretty deep connection to the UK, which is why if you think about somebody like William Buckley, Buckley was a big-time CIA Eastern Establishment Atlanticist operative, because he co-opted the conservatives, for example, to go along with to leave the ideas of America first, to transition into the idea of America as a giant imperialist foreign project. This was Buckley's role. And if you listen to or watch Buckley talk, he has that fake English accent. He's not from England, but he speaks that way because he has the Eastern affectation in his discourse, trying to appeal to that crowd. And that's a real thing. Like, there's a lot of people who even still talk this way. And that hints at what I'm getting at. And that's because the founding of America was a mix of people, but you had different coalitions kind of playing in the background. Like, for example, the Russians supported the revolutionaries because they saw England as a tool of the Rothschilds and the banks. So the Russians thought that it would be better to support the founding fathers because of their opposition to the bankers, especially, some of the more vocal ones. But at the same time,
who's the neckbeard guy?
That's me.
Welcome,
Love you,
Rick.
Jake. Love
That's
you,
me.
man. I'm just messing around.
Oh, that guy? We were singing. That's a really funny video that somebody sent me. It's the cover "Cry Little Sister" from Lost Boys. I forgot to play it on the Halloween stream. Anyway, sorry, Hesh. To answer your question, long story short, thank you, Randy, for Randy J joining us, Funk Soul and Hesh Boiler Room crew here. It's a mix of people, and there's a mix of influences interested in seeing the revolutionaries succeed. And it's unquestionable if you look at a famous book like Fire in the Minds of Men, it was written by James Billington, who is was the longtime head of the Library of Congress, which is actually plays a big part of National Treasure 2, the actual building. He wrote a famous book called Fire in the Minds of Men, which is the history of the revolutionaries. And so he's writing it from, the archives in D.C., I guess. And it's a lot of people see this as kind of like a pretty authoritative book on the subject. And he talks about all the secret societies involved in the founding of America, all the different power structures that went into influencing it. But ultimately, there was I would say a majority Freemason influence on the American Revolution. Not everybody, but a majority. Certainly, many of the most prominent ones, like a Franklin and the Jefferson, these types were. But you even had, I think, John Quincy Adams. You had some people who were anti-Mason. I think John Quincy Adams wrote some anti-Masonic works. He saw it as a subversive institution. So this gets into why the early founding fathers had a debate over, like the Federalist Papers. They were debating whether America should be set up as more of a monarchy or whether it should be more of a democratic republic. So what ended up winning out was more of the decentralized democratic republic, but it still retains elements of monarchy and democracy and republicanism with its three branches. So you get a weird kind of experimental mix with America. But the fact that the founding documents are very vague in their idea of a, quote, creator suggests, again, the predominance of deism. So you had a lot of people who professed forms of Protestant Christianity and a handful of Catholics, but they had to also try to form the government with a bunch of people who were Masons and rationalists and deists and atheists. So they decided on this kind of very vague, vague type of civic deity, which is what we have in the documents. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, interesting, man. Because, a lot of people talk about, especially among, like the crypto politics crowd and conspiracy crowd, they talk about the founding fathers like, it's this big Masonic plot. And I'm always curious about those talking points because I know there's a big factor there. But, like you just kind of pointed out, there was a lot of, it wasn't like full agreement. There was different viewpoints and religious points there.
Yeah, there's good and bad. I mean, many of the fathers were against the bankers. Like they were really opposed to the giant international banking cartel, and they were very aware of it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all the solutions they had necessarily were going to work. So, and not all the Masons have the exact same ethos and view. So ultimately, I think they're controlled. They were kind of a spy network for the British Empire. Masons were. But that's not to say that the founding fathers weren't sincerely trying to break off of England to create the new Atlantis, the ideal republic. And so, there's no doubt that that's what America is an attempt to create the new Atlantis. This is what Billington's whole book documents, and it's not a conspiracy book. He's a very famous librarian scholar. The book has nothing to do with what we think of as tinfoil hat. He's like top academic in the U. I don't think he's right in his worldview, but I'm saying he's not a conspiracy theorist. He's just a university academic type guy, and the whole book backs up everything that I'm talking about.
What's the name of the book again?
It's called Fire in the Minds of Men: The Origins of the Revolutionary Faith. Had you heard of it?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, it's an interesting book. It would answer the question that you're asking, like to what degree did secret societies, Masonry, and all that have to do with America?
All right, I'm adding it to my reading list right now as we talk.
And it's not written from a again, from a conspiracy, it's a mainline academic book that touches on all of that.
Excellent.
But all of this is really kind of, I mean, the whole point of this book, if you wanted a Disney version of the book, you could just watch National Treasure 1 and 2.
To come full circle.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, yeah.
So the writers and directors of this movie franchise, they probably took a lot from Billington's book then.
Well, either that or they could have. It's a pretty well known book, and also, they probably Disney's full of Freemasons, so they probably just asked around like, what's the Masonic view of the mythology of America. So I mean,
including Disney himself, if I'm not mistaken.
There's some debate over that. There's evidence that he was connected to the de Molay, which is de Molay was a Templar. And so the de Molay group of the Masons is for young people, and it was named after Jacques de Molay. But so there's debate over whether Walt really was. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't have a card in the game. I think Walt was a pretty weird dude, but
But it was unclear.
Well, he was at least involved in the de Molay organization, and he was, he worked with the CIA. The CIA is who's helped him get the land to set up Disneyland. So the OSSCI, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised, but there's a lot of debate over the fact that there seemed to have been periods where it looked like Walt was pro-German, pro-Axis. So some people try to argue that, Walt's a Nazi. And then there's like awards from B'nai B'rith to Walt, which I'm not so sure that if Walt was actually a Nazi, B'nai B'rith would have given him an award. But he's just an establishment person. He's probably not really committed to anything. Committed to money, probably.
Yeah, money. That's what I was thinking too. The legacy still stands also.
Well, Funk, you don't have to say where you are, but you are amongst the Isles of Albion, and I got to go there, recently for the first time, and I was kind of blown away at how Masonic, everything was. I mean, I knew it was, but then when you go and you kind of see it in person, it's kind of, the architecture of London and all that's very, just so overtly Masonic.
Yeah, it's a pity you didn't have more time, Jay, to check out the city of London. As you know, it's massively. I was just checking out. I was going to punt in that there is a Grand Lodge of the Masons in Ireland. It's the second most senior Grand Lodge of Freemasons in the world. It was established in 1725. I think we've kind of kicked it around on some Twitter chats and banter before about the Order of the Knights of St. Barnabas, Ely Place, and all this stuff. It was some time ago, but there was very much the rooted Masonic presence back in the motherland of Ireland too. Very prevalent indeed.
And I've read too. This is kind of where the Irish Republican Army. They had a lot of Masonry. Irish Protestantism has a lot of Masonry there. The Orange Army, they have Masons. And then at the same time, the British intelligence people who would try to infiltrate and set up the IRA were also a bunch of Masons.
Well, absolutely, because this ties back into Trinity College. Well, there's one in London, but there's one in Dublin as well. I think it was set up at some point in the 16 to 1700s. I'd have to double check those dates, but yes, indeed. You have that, you have that connection right back to to Masonry, and then on the flip side of that, kind of how the Irish intelligence side developed was as a result of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. You had that developed in the early 1900s before it became the Irish Republican Army. Then we kind of broke off and we had our own military intelligence, but it pretty much is a hybrid of British military intelligence. There was a lot of influence there, and as you rightly pointed out, goes back to the Masons, goes back to the British Masons in Ireland.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
That's ways that you can, compartmentalize and control information, is to control both sides. Now, I'm not saying that everybody was controlled. Obviously, there were real tensions and animosity, but it's always hard to know. With a great example of this is the Civil War itself. I remember even in mainline history books in college, they would show you a lot of newspaper artwork and other people's paintings and stuff from both the North and the South in the Civil War, and you'll find Masonic imagery and symbolism all throughout both. Right, so there's a lot of Freemasonry involved in the North and in the South. In fact, the Jefferson Monument, if you don't know who Jefferson Davis is, he would have been the president if the Confederates had won. The Jefferson Monument is a giant obelisk that's exactly the same as the Washington Monument. It wasn't too far from where I used to live in Tennessee. So, I mean, it's in Kentucky, but it wasn't far from Tennessee.
What's interesting, hearing you two talk, is that I'm bad on the exact years, but I have a sort of a idea of the time frame. But around the French Revolution, probably even a little before, and then the fighting with the English and the French from that era as well. Mm-hmm. They're always going at it at different times. That there was this. Now, it might not be Masonic specifically, like you just mentioned another society, the Molay Society, the Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them, but it seems like the roots of all of those sort of like happened in continental Europe and maybe the British Isles, sort of around the same time, and then it just spawned off of there, and it also seems to coincide with some faction of the rulers of the day, be it an emperor like Napoleon or a monarchy in England. It seems like these societies have some sort of like their tentacles in the governments,
sure,
and the rich, the rich and the elite, which a lot of us, from the different stuff we read and talk about all the time, that might not have gone anywhere. It could just be right there today. Just looks different, No one with. It's not the top hats and the industrialist tycoon look anymore, but it still exists, just in another form.
Right. Well, there's a book that was written that echoes that point I was mentioning earlier, Builders of Empire by Jessica Harlan Jacobs, and it's not a conspiracy book. It's just a mainline history of how Freemasonry was just essentially a giant spy network for the British Empire. What better way to have, spies than to have an international imperial secret society that you join, and it's a hierarchy like the mafia, and you do what you're told. I mean, that's all of the spy agencies come out of the secret societies. They've always been connected.
And it's borderless, right? I mean, so it could be intercontinental and everything, and it doesn't answer to the people, but it has people in perfectly placed, networked globally, so to speak, people in positions of power. I mean, it's kind of brilliant, really. I mean, from the standpoint of the people behind it, if they want to manipulate currencies, do controlled opposition and wars and everything. Again, like you've mentioned dozens of times and referenced in so many works, I can't even bring them all to mind right now. But what a perfect setup.
Sure. I mean, this has gone on for a long time. Goes back to Rome, Byzantium, ancient empires. They all practiced espionage. I mean, espionage is part of life. There's Bible stories about the spies, in Exodus. So, point being is that plenty of books show that. There's a famous book by a priest, actually Roman Catholic. His name's Francis Dvornik, but he was an Eastern scholar, and he wrote a book called Origins of Intelligence Services, and he traces it back to, to empires. So in the ancient world. So you're absolutely right. And all those empires in the ancient world had secret societies. So that's the history of America is really to just inherit all of this and continue this tradition. I mean, it continues the British imperial tradition under the guise of being democracy. But there's no question about it. It was, during the World War II period that America First, right? The America First coalition. This was shouted down as evil because they wanted to retain a non-imperial, non-interventionist foreign policy, and they said, "Oh, you're a crypto Nazi if you don't want to get involved in World War II." So that's how they did it. Was they demonized everybody. The CFR, the Royal Society, they heavily lobbied to get the U.S. to fully join into World War II, and they were already kind of going that way anyway with the League of Nations and World War I. So that's how we became globalist.
Amazing, man.
I just dropped a link into you guys, dovetailing back really quickly to the Masons. It was the 300th anniversary of the founding of the Premier Grand Lodge in London in 1717. Last year, there was a massive show in the Royal Albert Hall in South Kensington in London, and you can watch all of this online on YouTube. I mean, it's the biggest open gathering of Freemasons in the world. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, the set pieces are incredible, and they have this like theatrical telling
right
of the story of Freemasonry. I would certainly advise everyone listening in and you guys to have a look at this. I've had a brief look at it, and it's just it's very revealing. It's something else. It's illuminating,
Well, yeah. Has everybody seen Mozart's Magic Flute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is like old school, Masonic dramaturgy, basically from Mozart. Let's see when it was. It was written in 1791. Yeah, and the whole thing is basically about overthrowing all the old order and establishing basically a new world order. Is really what it is. That dispels the superstition of the ancient world. So, like the Middle Ages, she's personified as the darkness of night and all kinds of weird stuff like this. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that Mozart wrote a famous opera that's based around the mysteries of Masonry. Die Zauberflöte.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Die Zauberflöte, yeah.
Die Zauberflöte. Die Zauberflöte. And was it Mozart that somebody wrote songs or poems about their farts? Remember that?
Like farts of antiquity?
No, their own farts. I'm serious. I can't remember. One of the composers was like a total degenerate, and he would write poems about his farts to his girlfriends. I'm dead serious.
My odor.
And he would write about her farts too. He'd be like, "Oh, how I miss your tooting trumpet."
How would I compare thee to a beloved fart?
Yeah, look it up.
All right.
A lot of weird fetishes, even in history.
The classics, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, these things aren't new, I suppose. People thought Brazilian fart porn was like something novel, but apparently not.
No, I forgot where I read that a long time ago, but I looked it up. It looked legit. I don't think it was made up, but anyway,
National Treasure. Yeah, I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's dumb. It's really goofy, but it does have some elements of the Masonic worldview that are pretty accurate that most people don't know. Again, this idea of Masonic bloodlines. Masons act like they're democratic and revolutionary and all this stuff, and they are at the lower levels. But as you get higher up, you get closer to the older bloodlines idea, and they're very interested in who people marry and all that kind of stuff. So they have I think a magical bloodlines kind of view. The higher you get up, even though they act like they don't at the low levels, that's present in this National Treasure. Let's see what else is in here. Let's see. Okay, so the clues in National Treasure are the unfinished pyramid, the uncapped pyramid, the all-seeing eye. Little side note, John Voight also plays a similar role as a member of the Illuminati in Tomb Raider. You guys remember Tomb Raider?
Yes.
Yep.
Which is obviously really ridiculous and an even more absurd and preposterous movie than National Treasure, both 1 and 2. But it is interesting that John Voight also, again, plays a similar role. And, one quick thing, too, I'll point that out when we get to Con Air, but let's see, what else? Let's see, Nicolas Cage. I think there's a mention of Secret Teaching of All Ages, I think it's mentioned, which is the famous Manly P. Hall Masonic book. Let's see. Full of Masonic emblems, blah, blah, blah. So they touch on the whole point about DC being a giant Masonically constructed city. Did you guys know that? Surely you've heard that, right? Like the whole architecture of DC, the way it's laid out.
Yeah, I have heard that before. That's crazy.
So I'm sure everybody knows that, but that's interesting because it shares that same principle with London and the architecture of Christopher Wren and so forth. So anyway, it's also interesting too that Nicolas Cage personally has an affinity for the occult. He talks about it quite often. Let's see. Have you heard his trip tales?
Trip
No.
Tales?
Yeah.
No, what's that?
They're pretty funny. No, his stories of tripping shrooms and acid.
Oh man, I gotta hear that.
Yeah, look them up. They're on YouTube. I think it's like Letterman or somewhere. He tells one, but he talks about staring into the eyes of his cat for 4 hours.
That sounds like him in Face Off.
I would come out of retirement to do LSD with Nick.
I think most of us. Yeah.
He's done some occult movies. I mean, besides
Yes. Yeah.
National Treasure. I mean, I want to say it's not Burning Man. Wicker Man comes to mind right off the top of my head. The one where
Yeah, it's a remake of the old.
Isn't it a remake of a Christopher Lee movie or something?
It is. Yeah, the human sacrifice Scottish cult. The old ways. It's an island and really good movie. I have a brief analysis that Jamie and I did in one of our podcasts. And yeah, they remade it with Nic Cage. A lot of people hate it. I think it's funny. It's a hilarious movie. They're all feminists, by the way, which is an interesting update because in the old one, it's Christopher Lee who runs the nature cult, and then in the new one, it's all these feminist hags who offer up Nicolas Cage as a sacrifice to the gods.
Christopher Lee is one of the original metalheads. You know, Christopher Lee is a headbanger.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he's even done metal albums.
Mm-hmm. I remember that right before he died, he came out with one.
Right.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm always amazed how certain people keep finding their ways in movies that are occult based or esoteric and all that. Like I'm thinking specifically from the Nic Cage movie we were talking about, The Wicker Man. The girl that's in Eyes Wide Shut, that is the daughter of the Eastern European guy that he's pimping her out to the two Japanese businessmen, is also
Lily Sobieski.
In her, yes. She's also in Eyes Wide Shut of all movies too. Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, that's right. And she's in Wicker Man. That's right. Good point.
Yeah, there's an alternate ending where they have her as a witch. Actually, I think it's the theatrical ending. They have her as one of the witches going out and finding guys to bring them to the island.
Yeah, that sounds like the version I seen anyway.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the theatrical ending of it. Let's see. So he was originally billed as Nicholas Coppola, right? Because he's related to Francis Ford Coppola. And his first movie was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That was somewhat notable. Then he got a starring role in Valley Girl, B comedy. And then let's see, his first big role was, you could argue, maybe Peggy Sue Got Married, which, does everybody remember how esoteric and Masonic Peggy Sue Got Married is?
No, remind me.
Oh yeah, go back and watch it. I watched it recently. Peggy Sue, it's kind of like, did you ever see it back in the 80s?
But I'm gonna go with no, but I may have, but I don't remember.
Okay, this actually is it's an 80s movie worth watching. I would recommend it. Very bizarre, a lot of mind control, a lot of weird cult stuff, and Nic Cage plays the boyfriend. And what happens is that Rebecca De Mornay goes back in time to when she was in high school in the 50s or 60s, and she has to basically solve family traumas or something. She's been traumatized or something, and she's got to go back and solve this, right? But what's weird about that is that the whole locus of how this is done is a special secret society Masonic lodge that's able to put her into trance states and help her go back and forth in time.
Oh, whoa.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, so the Masonic group does mind control on her, more or less. They put her in these trances, and she thinks she's just solving her traumas or whatever, but there's definitely some mind control stuff going on here. But anyway, that's his first kind of co-starring role that's fairly big, was Peggy Sue Got Married. Like, his first one alongside big name people. And then he did, Coen Brothers, Raising Arizona. That's what made him pretty famous, because Raising Arizona was a big comedy hit. And then he was in Moonstruck, which was a hit with Cher. So, yeah, then he was doing pretty good. Wild at Heart. So once he got Wild at Heart with David Lynch, yeah. And then he kind of was on an upward trend. Honeymoon in Vegas, which probably did okay. And then Leaving Las Vegas, which he won Oscar for his role as the drunk. And then after that, he's like action star, right? So 90s action, The Rock, Con Air, Face Off, Snake Eyes, 8mm. Oh, we cannot forget, dude, freaking 8mm snuff films. And it has how did I forget that? So, dude, Randy, good job.
Right. I remember seeing that. I haven't seen it recently, but at the time when it was out, it just struck me as a bizarre movie and a weird career choice for him or whatever. Using the term awake, asleep, awoke, whatever. I mean, I was slumbering hard probably during I was probably sleepwatching, so to speak. But yeah, that'd be an interesting one to see now.
So there's
blue-pilled your way through 8mm?
Definitely.
Now, supposedly Lord of War, which I think did good in the box office, was based on, or somewhat based on, the Trine Day book by Daniel Estlin, I think. I think that's right. The one called Shadow Masters, because Nic Cage is playing a guy roughly based on Victor Bout, who's what Daniel Estlin's book's about him. And he's basically a guy who rose up in power in the arms industry. And if you remember the end of the film, he doesn't really know who he's working for this whole time. And you finally find out it's like some high-level general who's running the arms.
Whoa.
Do you remember?
What do you think of, sorry to cut in, that one, Knowing? That just occurred to me there. That's some gnarly scenes in that. And he actually produced some quite good acting out of that as well.
I thought The Knowing was okay. That's a PKD. That's Philip K. Dick's story. No. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
man.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm thinking of Next. Which? Oh, Knowing. That's the one that's like the
The
cobble.
oil rig in the plane crash.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. That's the dang dude. So there's all this. I can't even remember. Nick Cage. Nicolas Cage has been in every damn movie that's ever come out, dude. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good point. So it has aliens leaving Kabbalah codes in everything about when the end of the world's coming. Forgot about that. Good point.
No way.
Yeah,
I gotta see that one.
you didn't,
I
dude.
gotta see that.
It
And
has
that was
the TV
oil
clip.
rig,
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Funk.
No, it was the so-called premonition that he had of the oil rig that went up. Then that particular event happened sometime after that movie was released. So there's the whole kind of the kind of movie precog thing kind of going on there. So it is pretty PKD. Like you're spot on about that.
Well, I was thinking of Next, which Next actually is a Philip K. Dick story, and I think
Wow.
Next it wasn't a big hit. It was like straight to video probably, but in that one, I think he has premonitions for like 30 seconds into the future or something goofy like that. But let's see. Anyway, there's that's a great point. There's quite a bit of esoteric roles throughout the career of Nick Cage. Absolutely. Ghost Rider, I mean, that's kind of I've never watched it because it was such a bomb, and I assume it sucks as bad as everybody says. Did you guys see it?
I think I caught like half of it on like late night cable TV once or something like that, and it was I don't know. I didn't walk away thinking like I need to go back and see the beginning of this.
Did you guys see?
Yeah,
Have you seen Matchstick Men? That's really good.
I don't know if I
did.
ever caught that one.
I did, but I can't remember the first thing about it. For some reason, I think there was a kid star that was in there with
It
him.
is,
That's
yeah.
about all I
It's
could recall.
Ellie or Dakota, one of the Fannings, I think, and then she's a con girl. And anyway, it's Ridley Scott did it. It's really good. It's a good movie. Alison Lohman. It's not. I forgot her name, but yeah, Matchstick Man is really good. And his more recent film, last good one was Joe, which was an independent film with Nick Cage. That one's really good. But yeah, I guess we're still waiting on the Cage comeback. Although Mandy was good. It was great. And
Yeah.
the comedy where he played. Oh, did you guys see the comedy where he plays the real guy who went to fight Al Qaeda with a sword?
No,
This is really funny. Go watch it. It's got Russell Brand in it briefly. What's the name of that movie? Let's see.
Army of One.
Army of One. That's a great one. Yeah, Nick Cage was great in that one too.
Yeah, Russell Brand is good.
What a premise.
Some guy from like Florida who or California or somewhere, some like redneck dude with a ponytail who was like a rabid evangelical and thought he was praying and God told him to go fight bin Laden with a sword. So he just flies over to like Pakistan, Islamabad or somewhere, and he's got like a sword. It's a total
no way.
Yeah. I mean, this
All right, I see it
apparently
here.
a true story.
Oh my god, I love the character look of the character he's playing here. Here's the description for anyone who hasn't seen it. After a personal visit by God himself, the eccentric construction worker Gary Faulkner takes the decision to embark on an adventure in the Badlands of Pakistan to bring Al Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden to justice.
Yeah, dude, that's a hilarious movie. And by the way, Nick Cage shows in that he actually is a really good actor. Which every time I say that, people are like, "What? No." Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Russell Brand plays God in this movie.
He's only in it for like a couple brief scenes, like giving this guy goofy messages.
Isn't that funny, Jay, that so many people just consider Nick Cage a bad actor? I mean, I think that people underestimate like how good he is because of the lengths at which he will go to take risks to pull off a character. And a lot of times, yeah, it does come off goofy, but I think when it comes off goofy, it oftentimes has more to do with the directors, producers, and people that are cutting the film. And some of them are maybe intentionally a little bit goofy and over the top. But I love how Nicolas Cage will just go for it. Like, he just doesn't give a fuck, if it looks goofy or too over the top, and he's willing to take risks that other actors won't take. And when it works, it's phenomenal.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
A lot of times it doesn't work, but I mean, when it does work, it's like, holy shit.
Another actor that reminds me of that, like, their bads are bad, but their goods are great, is Travolta. Like, he gets cast in these goofy roles sometimes, and he just comes off, hey, it's like ridiculous, right? But then in other stuff, the Vinny character from Pulp Fiction, for example, I mean, he nails it.
Yeah. There are some good John Travolta roles. I have to admit, but I mean, yeah, Nick Cage. I know the Oscars is not. I mean, it's kind of a joke, but at the same time, I mean, people that win an Oscar generally do have some talent. So he wouldn't have. I think the story is that he really was drunk like the entire movie. I assume you guys have seen that Leaving Las Vegas. Yeah, and like you'll see him, and if you remember, there's like scenes where he was filling up his grocery cart. It's all vodka.
Yeah, that's
and
one of the most iconic parts.
In interviews, he's like, "No, I was really doing that. I really was. Like that's what I was drinking nonstop. I wanted to get into the role. Every scene, I was completely smashed." So he claims it could just be stories, but he claims like he really was just bombed out of his mind. So
I believe it.
He very nearly became he very nearly became Tony Stark in Iron Man.
No, I didn't know that.
Cage was, he was is massive Marvel fan. I've just got a few details here. As early as 1997, more than 10 years before Iron Man was released, Cage had expressed his interest in portraying the Marvel superhero. Cage is a huge Marvel fan, and he even chose his stage name after the Marvel character Luke Cage. Of course, the role went to Robert Downey Jr., yada, 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 but Cage went on to be in Ghost Rider, etc., etc. So that's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that about the Luke Cage factor. That is interesting.
Gentlemen, I got to adios. I'm gonna go do the old ballot box thing.
All right, go do it, man. Go make America great again, Randy J.
Red wave,
Right.
red wave.
All right, guys, catch you. It's close by. If you're still on, I'll jump back on again.
All right, sounds good.
I've got Have you guys heard all the crazy Nick Cage stories?
No, but I'm down for some.
Okay, let me read you some of these. Okay, so some of the in this list, some of the ones I've heard. Let's see. It says, Ghost Rider made over $45 million 5 years ago during the opening weekend. Blah blah blah. Oh, this article saying they're going to share all this for Nick Cage opening weekend. Let's see. Shoplifting. No, that's not. That's just. Oh, the apparently when he was wearing his panty on his head, supposedly he got arrested because he's running down the street and they thought that it was real. There's a claim about that. I don't know if that's true, but remember that he married Lisa Marie Presley. So there's a high level connection there. Which he was briefly married to her. Forgot about that. Let's see. Oh, he named his kid Kal-El because he's such a huge Superman fan.
Oh, that's right. Is that his son that is a black metal musician? One of his, I don't know how many kids he has or if it's just the one, but I know that his son is a full-on like black metal band guy.
I'm not sure. It says probably not, because this kid was born in 2005, and the guy that's the metal guy's older, so he's got another kid, I guess. Let's see here. Yeah, Luke Cage. We read that one. He spent how much? Let's see. He dropped $270,000 excavating for dinosaur bones, bidding against Leonardo DiCaprio over a dinosaur skull. So he outbid DiCaprio for $276,000 for a dinosaur skull, supposedly.
Nice.
Let's see. Oh yeah, another reason why he took a lot of the bad movies is that the IRS came after him, and so. Yeah.
Just like Wesley Snipes.
Exactly, dude. I was just thinking Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I almost watched Blade last night.
Had you? I'm sure you've seen Blade.
Oh yeah, but it's been a long time, and our conversation last week made me want to see it again. So I had my finger on the trigger, but something ended up. I don't know. I saw something shiny somewhere else, I guess.
Oh, have you seen Nic Cage's tomb?
His tomb? He owns a tomb?
It's a giant pyramid.
No way.
Yeah. No, I'm dead serious. That's where he wants to be buried, is a giant pyramid, and it's in New Orleans. And he owns like a big haunted house next to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy
and then
shit, I see
there's
it
all
now.
kinds
Wow,
of crazy Nic Cage stories, and one of them is like he bought an island or something because he wanted to blow bombs up or some crazy shit like that. So he's just
I love the tagline on this article about his tomb. It says, "If Nic Cage ever dies, he will be buried inside this controversial New Orleans pyramid."
Yes. If he ever does. Yeah, isn't that crazy? This is a nutty guy. Anyway, so the stories go on and on and on. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but what do you? I don't want you guys are welcome to hang on. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, I'm in for it. Before we move away from the tomb, though, how's your Latin? What does omnia ab uno mean?
Off the top of my head, I want to say all of one.
I'm gonna do a search on it real quick here. Omnia
like ordo ab ko, right? Let's see.
Right. Let's see here. Omnia ab uno, to the end, perhaps, or all from one, depending on where you look. Okay, because that's written prominently on his tomb there.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, there's a Twitter account called that. Maybe is that Nic Cage's secret Twitter?
It could be his crypto Twitter.
Anyway, I don't know, but
it's everything from one. I just picked it up there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Let's
okay,
see.
so what's next in Americage?
Yeah, I don't think this is Nicolas Cage's secret Twitter. Well, let's see. Okay, so maybe let me look here at my notes. There is an interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I didn't really like him in Bad Lieutenant. I preferred the original with Keitel. I thought Bad Lieutenant 2009 it was a bit sucky. I'm not sure what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I was open to Werner Herzog until I saw him do that stupid movie with Michael Shannon and Lawrence Krauss. He actually put Lawrence Krauss in the movie as Krauss, as if Lawrence Krauss is a super elite scientist in his dumb movie about climate change.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, no thanks. I don't know why anyone would try to do a redo of Bad Lieutenant. That movie is one of Harvey Keitel's most classic performances. I used to watch that movie on repeat when I was in college, and That'd be like trying to redo a Pink Floyd album or something.
Well, one of the elements that does spill over into the films in a stupid Hollywood way is ciphers and codes, which a lot of people think that's like Disney silly stuff, but actually ciphers and codes are famous, and they've been used in espionage and in masonry for a long time. So one of the famous, I mean, ciphers have been around for a long time, obviously, but I have a whole essay, by the way, on ciphers and cryptography if anybody's interested on a fuller treatment of it. But the movie's full of them solving these codes, and I read a long time ago a 2-volume history of masonry and secret societies, and they actually talked about all the ciphers used by Masons, and obviously one of the most famous ones is called the Pigpen cipher, which, did you know that you can actually put the entire alphabet into a tic-tac-toe grid?
No, how's that work out?
Well, I'm trying to figure out if I can show you. I don't know if I can. If you Google Pigpen cipher, Pigpen, and then Cipher, you can see how with 4 different layers of the tic-tac-toe box with some dots, you could literally write any letter to anybody with a series of tic-tac-toe boxes, and nobody would know what you're writing.
Okay, I'm seeing it here. Yeah, that's a good one. Wow.
So in other words, if you wanted to do A, you would just do that backwards L, just that section of the Pigpen at the top, right? And then if you wanted to do B, you would do that again, but you would have the little dot there. And then if you wanted to do your abs, ABS, you would do the where the S is, you would do that V. So you can enclose the whole alphabet in that interesting little cipher. And there's a whole bunch of ciphers like this, by the way, where neat ways to write stuff. And, secret societies have done this for millennia. Now, you can't really get away with the Pigpen cipher nowadays because it's one of the most well-known ciphers. So people saw it, they would crack it in like a minute. But it makes me think of stuff like the Zodiac. How the Zodiac killer was supposedly sending in all these ciphers and nobody could crack it and all that kind of shit.
Right.
It looks really interesting. I'm just looking at the detail of it here, and it connects back to Cabal, Rosicrucians, Freemasons, like totally occult.
It does because it's also similar to a magic square. The little tic-tac-toe boxes there.
Mm.
And the planetary squares, if you're familiar with those. So, but that comes up. Actually, I think they may even mention the Pigpen cipher. I can't remember. I've got it in my notes, but I don't remember if that's actually mentioned in the movies or not. So anyway, so what's interesting is that DC, what we were talking about earlier, the whole city is a giant map. It's a big cipher. The city is an encrypted cipher, just like London is, and you can write messages in architecture just like you can in secret cryptographic messages.
So do we have any information about what kind of messages have been decoded from it thus far?
Well, in the history of espionage, there have been countless messages and many, kind of intercepted and decoded. So, you'll find that kind of stuff all throughout history. One example in history is the Bavarian Illuminati had their messages intercepted by one of the monarchs in Germany, I think. And so that's how they were actually discovered, was that their messages were discovered and decrypted. If you've heard the story of Turing and World War II,
yeah,
he was involved in cryptography and that kind of stuff. So even the newer stuff can rely on really ancient stuff. There's a Caesar cipher. Caesar had ways that he would send messages through cryptography, and everybody knows about John Dee and James Bond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would. A lot of people think his Enochian, his magic that he came up with, which is obviously occultic, but some people say it was just a a way for him to communicate with Elizabeth. So people would avoid it because they thought it was spooks and demons, but it was him just trying to send messages to Elizabeth, which is plausible. But I don't know. I guess it depends on to what degree he really believed in his esoteric stuff or not. But regardless, the point is that this is one of the reasons why Masonry focused on architecture, was because they also wanted to put the messages and their worldview into the buildings themselves. This is why even churches, cathedrals are full of symbolism, especially like if you go to Orthodox Church, everything in there is symbolic. It's almost like an inverse version of Masonry. Like Masonry does the same thing. If you go to their big temples, everything's symbolic. Everything's got this hidden coded meaning, and that's the secret of architecture, I guess you could argue.
Yeah, I can relate to that very well. I was at a friend's wedding in Poland a couple of years ago, Orthodox church, and hugely symbolic. So spot on there. A lot of symbolism.
That's why communist architecture is so hideous and ugly, is because it's putting its worldview into practice, not just on paper, but also in the arts, the aesthetics, right? And then that spills over into architecture. And so, Marxist architecture is purely functional, because if you try to have ornate beauty there, that's bourgeois, that's neoclassical, that's Baroque, right? So you have to be opposed to that, because you can't support class warfare. So everything has to be purely functional. And you see the logic of this, like it even spills over into their architecture.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Relatively small church in a small village in a place called Poznan, in just outside the center of central Poland. And I'm just there, like on one of the front seats, and what's staring at me is this all-seeing, illuminating eye. I'm just like, damn, I'm getting distracted by this instead of like focusing on the wedding here, It was crazy. Yeah.
And you're saying the all-seeing eye was in the church?
Yeah, it was just above the altar in the architecture. I must try and dig up some pictures and send them on to you guys. It was pretty crazy.
There is even before modern Freemasonry, the all-seeing eye has had a lot of different usages. So sometimes people will message me and say, why is there an all-seeing eye in a church? Now, yes, it could be that the people in the church or who designed the church were Freemasons. That isn't entirely possible, and that does happen. But the all-seeing eye has also been used as just a symbol of providence or of the Trinity. So it's not always necessarily, meaning, for example, to the ancient Egyptians, it meant it actually was a symbol of human sacrifice. It was called the Wajat, and it did have a human sacrifice symbolism. But not every culture or usage of that. I mean, in other words, not every time there's a pyramid or a triangle does it mean human sacrifice, right? It depends on the context, and it depends on the intention of who's putting it there. So just a caveat, because sometimes people say, anywhere you see a triangle or even an all-seeing eye, it doesn't always necessarily mean Masonry, although nowadays it tends to.
Yeah.
Well, we got another super chat here from Skip Charlie. By the way, if anybody wants to send super chats, we're talking architecture, masonry, film, Hollywood, fire in the minds of men, the esoteric history of America, which we've touched on, but I don't know that we've ever actually really delved into that too deeply before. If anybody has any super chats, feel free to send them. I will split them with the Boiler Room crew. And we have a question from Skip Charlie. Nic Cage is an absolute maniac in Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call. It's an amazing movie, but it's also full of esoteric themes. I will have to check it out. It's one of the few Nic Cage movies I still haven't seen. And I wouldn't have thought there would be esoteric themes in it, but I will have to check it out. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out too, just because I love the original so much, and I'll give it a shot.
it got good reviews. Not that that necessarily means a whole lot, but let's see. Any more notes on National Treasure? Actually, 322 comes up. Skull and Bones is hinted at because they go to they go to Trinity Church, which relates to the Founding Fathers. Let's see. Oh, and they decode the dollar. Let's not forget, everybody, that the American dollar bill. There's a great example of a Masonic usage of the all-seeing eye that absolutely is Masonic.
Interesting. And there was something about a clock, right, on the back of the bill or something like that?
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, they find a clock. Good point. And it has something to do with how you get into the tomb inside the church. There's like a crypt inside the church.
Here, I've got a blurb on it. On the back of the $100 bill is Independence Hall, where the Liberty Bell used to be housed.
Oh.
And in the movie, Cage's character, Ben Gates, and his buddies magnify the bill to see the time on the clock, which reads 2:22. In real life, the bill does indeed have a clock that reads 2:22. Officially, it's documented as being 4:10, but to whoever's writing this, to me, it looks more like the little hand, the hour hand, is pointing to the 2. In 2013, the bill was re-released, and the time was changed to 10:30. There's no known reason for why either of those times were chosen.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
There is a lot of that weird stuff about the dollars that's true. Like, it is true that, let's see. I think it's Willis Harmon that got the all-seeing eye on the dollar. I mean, it was done under FDR. Have you guys heard this story?
No. What's going on there?
Let's see. I want to make sure I'm right about this. I haven't thought about that. So under FDR, one of the guy who got the dollar bill, who got the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, was a rabid commie. I'm trying to make sure I've got the story right before I start talking on it. Let's see.
All right. While you're reading up on that, here's an interesting one I came across. Did Benjamin Franklin first propose daylight savings time?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Interesting, because we just suffered daylight savings time, and the answer is sort of. He's not credited for the painfully annoying jump in time. Rather, New Zealander George Vernon Hudson is credited for proposing the official idea in 1895. But Franklin did come up with a similar concept in 1784. He wrote an article that suggested saving on candles by waking up earlier to maximize on daylight. But since Benjamin Franklin is on the $100 bill and National Treasure was running on a clue from that monetary note, they opted to credit that founding father for the suggestion rather than the New Zealander George Vernon Hudson. So that's kind of interesting.
Okay. I'm sorry. Wallace Harmon is the guy who wrote Changing Images of Man, who was a big-time establishment New Ager. It's Henry Wallace is the Secretary of Agriculture, who was a member of the Communist Party, who got the all-seeing eye put on the dollar bill. That's how it goes. And he was under FDR. FDR, by the way, was a big-time banker agent. We covered that in the Tragedy and Hope talks. But it says on the Great Seal, Henry Wallace recalls that day. He says, the Latin phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order, impressed me as the meaning of the New Deal of the ages that FDR was doing. I was struck by the fact that the reverse side of the seal had not been used, and so I took the publication to President Roosevelt, and I said, let's put a coin out to be suggested a coin to be put out with the obverse and reverse sides of the seal. Roosevelt, as he looked at the colored reproduction of the seal, was first struck with the representation of an all-seeing eye, the Masonic seal, the great architect of the universe. Next, he was impressed with the idea that the foundation of the New World Order of the Ages was laid in 1776, and that it would be completed under the eye of the great architect of Masonry. Wow. There you go. Roosevelt, like myself, this is Wallace talking, was also a 32nd degree Mason. He suggested that the seal be put on the dollar bill rather than a coin, and he took the matter up with the Secretary of the Treasury. He brought it up in a cabinet meeting and asked James Farley, who was the head of the Postmaster General, if he thought Catholics would object to a Masonic symbol on the dollar bill. Farley said, "Nah, nobody cares."
Oh.
Yeah, so when the first draft came back from the Treasury, the obverse side on the left of the bill is a heraldic practice. Roosevelt insisted that the order be reversed so that the phrase United States would be on the obverse side. And so here we have 100%. Yeah, that's what I thought. If I recall, too, Wallace was into Blavatsky. Like, he wasn't just a 32nd degree Mason commie. Like, he liked the really esoteric, like Blavatsky type stuff, too.
I love that. No one will care. Yeah. All these years later, it's like one of the biggest pieces of conspiracy candy ever.
Mm-hmm. But it's true. It's true. It really. This is at greatseal.com, and it's all from Henry Wallace's book. Yeah, so he says, he flat out says it.
Wow. No apologies.
And by the way, in their view, you see him saying it here. Like, he says, America is the New World Order, established in 1776. This is the new order of the ages. So they at least in their way of casting it, the Masons under FDR are saying it's to set up the New World Order. And that is from his, let's see, the name of the book is called An Authentic Dreamer by Henry Wallace. So he was a high up FDR guy.
Wow. The date on that makes sense, you guys, because, Blavatskyism and whatnot, that was rolling out since the late 1800s. I think it was like around 1875, like onwards. So Federal Reserve, the note. So the timelines kind of match up there, don't they?
It does. And this is not whatever website this is not a conspiracy website. It's just a website devoted to the symbolism of the seal. Yeah, then doesn't have anything directly conspiratorial, I don't think. But anyway,
that also makes me think about the February 21st Act of 1871, when Congress passed an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. The Act of 1871 formed a corporation called the United States. The United States, this corporation owned by foreign interests, moved in and shoved the original Constitution to a dustbin sort of situation there. And, that period of time there between the Act of 1871 and the formation of the Fed, makes a lot of sense. This all fits right in.
And you've seen that the drawing of the hexagram that spells out Mason, right, on the dollar bill?
Yes, that's right.
That's another conspiracy classic that we've all forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
Conspiracy candy this is like, when I was doing that other stream, it was like going back to, 1997, 2001, 2 era conspiracy stuff of talking about the UN and the Lucis Trust and all that stuff.
Right.
You know that one, don't you?
Remind the listeners.
The United Nations adopted the philosophy, worldview, I guess, however you want to put it, of Madame Blavatsky, Annie Besant, and Alice Bailey. Basically, they're kind of theosophy type stuff. And they started a publishing house, which is still funded by the UN, Lucifer Publishing. I'm serious. You guys didn't know this?
Oh man.
Yeah,
No,
dude, this is
No.
this is vintage, like old school conspiracy stuff. Yeah, it's still there. I think it's called Lucis Publishing now. I think they felt like Lucifer was a little too much, so they changed it to Lucis, which
They
is still the
toned it
same
down
thing.
just a
It's the
tad.
same thing though. It means it exactly. When you read about it, they on the UN website for Lucifer Publishing, like they tell you, well, originally it was Lucifer, but they're like, we're devoted to the works of Madame Blavatsky and Annie Besant, and yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick, but you assume people know that stuff, and then you're like, man, I was talking to a guy actually in a church one time about, I was like, well, the UN promotes Lucifer Publishing, and he was like, what? And this is a guy, he went to Carnegie Mellon, so he was like really full of himself. He thought he knew everything, and I was like, he was like bumfuddled. He couldn't believe this. He's like, what? No way. That does not exist. That does not. So he looked it up, and he's like, well, it doesn't mean that. And I'm like, well, it says on the about page, like you can look it up. It tells you. And he's just like, I just can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can't believe that they would do that. And I'm like, hidden in plain sight, right? Right, guys?
Yeah, right. Like I'm staring at this hexagram on the dollar bill here. Yep, there it is, hidden straight there, straight in plain sight.
So I guess again, yeah, we can pull out some reality in National Treasure that some of this is true. A lot of this Masonic stuff's true. We all know, I assume, that there's a section of the movie, I didn't know this, that they talk about silence do good. And this is a code name for Ben Franklin. And I'm not a super big fan of Ben Franklin, but I know that he was in the Hellfire Club, so he was a Eyes Wide Shut participant. By the way, there's one of the guys that has a lot of the elite connections, Ben Franklin, who, by the way, was all about screwing gilfs. Did you know that?
he was in the gills.
He was. He's like screwing grannies it's easy because they'll and they know what they're doing because they've lived forever.
Oh my God.
Dude, speaking of the Hellfire Club, there is one in Dublin, where I'm from, in a place called the Dublin Wicklow Mountains. I'm from a town or a village not too far away from there, and that's where the Dublin Hellfire Club is. And there's a lot of stories about this place. It's only in the past couple of years they've made some more historical discoveries about there. They've actually found gold up there as well. And
really,
but yeah, dude, it's crazy. You should do some checking around about the Hellfire Club in Ireland. So of course there was as you probably know, there was a hell of a lot of degenerate stuff that happened up there as well. And it's supposed to be haunted by a great black cat, and that's the mythos, the folklore about that. They used to get dwarves and light them on fire and send it down the hill, and they did some crazy shit up there. The Brits, obviously, I don't know if there was any Irish involvement, but it was predominantly as a result of the Brits in Ireland, but some pretty devilish, degenerate shit going on.
Yeah, Francis Dashwood, who was nobility, Sir Francis Dashwood, and then he would invite all of the elites, and Franklin, by the way. So Franklin, by the way, was presumably a spy, because he was trotting the globe, meeting with all these elites, doing all this stuff. Very interesting character. Obviously a Mason, no doubt about that. And some even say that Franklin was self-consciously a Satanist. I don't know if that's been proven, but I wouldn't be surprised. Anybody ever come across anything on that? But there is I guess the famous book is Evelyn Lord's book, Hellfire Club, and I think Hellfire Club even made it into Esoteric Hollywood, but I don't remember in relationship to what movie. Maybe when I was talking about Eyes Wide Shut or something. But
Yeah, I remember briefly. I've been on the site numerous times in my childhood and adulthood, and it goes without saying the quote unquote the energy up there. It isn't great.
In there, I was told too that you can take like a Hellfire Club tour in London. Like there's a connect the group that was in London. You can do a tour of where they would meet in their crypt or whatever.
I haven't been on that. I haven't actually heard of that. I must look into it. You know, there's the whole thing that's going on in London with where Michael Bloomberg's building is based in a place called Finsbury Square in London. It's based around the original area of the Mithras Londinium.
Wow.
As well. Yeah, there's a huge amount of stuff about that. Bloomberg chose to build on that spot specifically in the old temple, kind of like Mithras area of London.
Wow.
There's a bit of food for thought and some digging if you want to check that up. There's quite a lot of dots to join on that. There was a lady, I forget her name, might come back to my head, but she did an interview with Greg Harwood on the Harside Chats about this. Oh, got it, Tracy Twyman.
Oh, I know her.
She goes into this a heck of a lot, and if you can dig that up, I'm sure you'll find that very interesting about Bloomberg and his goings on in London City.
Hesh, are you familiar with Hellfire Club and all that stuff?
A little bit, but no, not very deeply. Okay. I hadn't heard that Franklin was a part of it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
it's funny if you go to like the mainstream sites like biography.com or something like that, and they talk about Benjamin Franklin being, an eccentric and all that. Like,
right.
It sounds like there's so much crazy shit that you could talk about with regard to this guy, and they'd have like just the most just benign thing here. They say that Franklin described his bathing ritual to a friend. He called it air baths. He says, I've found it much more agreeable to my constitution to bathe in another element. I mean cold air. With this view, I rise early almost every morning and sit in my chamber without any clothes whatsoever, half an hour or an hour, according to the season, either reading or writing. This practice is not in the least painful, but on the contrary, agreeable. So he's basically sitting in front of an open window on his first floor, so his neighbors have to see him taking his air baths when he wakes up every morning.
Okay. Interesting. Weird. Yeah, that's funny.
I would have picked the Hellfire Club story personally, but I guess at biography.com that's just not acceptable.
Right.
The club's mascot was a black cat. I'm just referring. I just pulled up some information about the Dublin one. Founded in 1737, it mentions about the first Earl of Ross. So this connects back to the Freemasons and the Second Grand Lodge in Dublin, Jake, the second biggest one in the world. Most of the meetings occurred in Dublin city centre. Accounts of the club's meetings claim that the members drank scalthine, which is a mixture of whiskey and hot butter, and that they left a chair vacant at each gathering for the devil.
That's right. Yeah, there's like documentaries on YouTube about Hellfire Club that used to play on like History Channel or Discovery Channel or whatever. I remember that part about the empty chair. I forget about that. Anyway. But I don't think that doesn't come up in National Treasure, but they do reference Franklin quite a bit. So yeah, like I said in the second one, I'll move on here quickly to part two. We kind of know, already laid out the fact that Ed Harris says he's related to Albert Pike, or to his family has the letters of Albert Pike or something, and he's related to John Wilkes Booth, maybe, I can't remember, but that yes, Booth was part of a conspiracy on the part of Confederates to murder Lincoln, and they were part of a secret society called the Knights of the Golden Circle, which is all true. Nic Cage postures and talks about how his family would never do this. Oh, it's a blight on his family. In other words, the beginning of the film, they kind of frame it like Nic Cage's family was involved, the Gates family was involved in killing Lincoln, and Nic Cage is all distraught about it because he thinks Lincoln is the greatest president. So that's the plot of the movie, is them trying to track all these dumb codes down to figure out how that's not true. So long story short, it ends up being another treasure quest of hidden, what's the civil, Incas, Mayas? I can't remember. I always get Incas and Mayas mixed up, but here's the funny part. I'll boil it down. The name of the movie, Book of Secrets. Okay, this is how stupid this is. The idea here is that the presidents of the United States have a secret set of diaries that are the books of secrets, and they pass them on to each president, right?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
part.
so that the president knows the nation's secrets and what really went on at Roswell and at JFK and Area 51. They mention all this. They literally say all this stuff. All of which is like a Disney preposterousness, as if the president actually runs the country and not the billionaire, trillionaire bankers, right? I'm trying to remember the name of the civilization that built the human sacrifice cult. Oh, okay. Native American city of Cibola. Okay. And I didn't know this because I'd forgotten all this. So there's supposed to be a hidden city somewhere. It's one of the 7 cities of gold never found. Had you guys heard of this?
No, I'm not recalling this part.
Well, apparently there is this legend of, let's see. It's a place named by Francisco Vasquez Coronado for the mythical 7 cities of gold that he never found. The location of Cibola, Cavara, it's different names, is believed to be in central Kansas, near present-day Lyons, extending southeast to Salina. Blah, blah, blah. Modern-day Wichita Indians, such as Pawnee, Arikar. Anyway, so it's some kind of like, conquistador type myth bullshit. And goes down to Texas. Maybe it's in Lubbock, Texas, blah, 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 blah. So they find it, right? And it's where they sacrificed humans. And isn't that interesting that that is mentioned in the plot? Nic Cage makes a point to mention that the Native American city of gold, Cibola, is built on human sacrifice. What do you think of that?
Wow, so it's like a El Dorado sort of city, but here in the United States, and it's a human sacrifice sort of location, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
Giant gold city where they sacrificed humans. And let's see, what else plays into this? Statue of Liberty, Edward Labouille, who's the guy behind Statue of Liberty. There's actually 3 of them. Oh, guess what? He was a Mason. Who didn't know that? It's obvious. Let's see. Nic Cage kidnaps the president. We all remember this. Fire in the Minds of Men. I mentioned that. Mount Vernon. Yeah. So that's the essence of part 2. There's not a whole lot beyond that. It is interesting though that they mention that they, when they find one of the books, it's hidden at the Library of Congress, which is where I mentioned, the Billington was when he wrote his Fire in the Minds of Men book, which is similar to the plot of National Treasure. And they talk a lot about Albert Pike. Albert Pike comes up like 30 times in the movie, probably. Lakota, that's what it is. I'm sorry. So Lakota Indians, they decode the Helen Mirren decodes it, plays the mother, blah, blah, blah. So that's it. That's my analysis of that. You start looking into the, online stuff. And by the way, let's not forget Jerry Bruckheimer was behind National Treasure 1 and 2. Do you remember what Jerry Bruckheimer was famous for in the 90s?
Con Air.
He was, but guess what else he was famous for?
Oh man, so much shit, Jerry
Yeah.
Bruckheimer.
Think about deep state stuff and Jerry Bruckheimer.
Was it the one with Hackman and what's his face?
Oh, you mean Enemy of the State?
Yeah, is that one of his movies?
Oh,
Oh, I like that one. Will Smith and Hackman,
Yeah, Will
wasn't
Smith. I was blanking on that dude's name. We were just talking about him the other day.
he might have done Enemy of the State, but he filmed. Do you remember the stuff with Jessica Lynch? It was Jerry Bruckheimer working with Donald Rumsfeld to come up with the stuff about Jessica Lynch to promote women in the military.
No way.
Yes, it's. I remember Alex used to talk about this, and I was like, "What?" And then you go if you Google Jessica Lynch, Jerry Bruckheimer, you'll get the Guardian article that was written back in 2003.
Yeah, there it is.
And then if you read down, they talk about it was perfectly at the end of the article. It says perfect reality TV made with the cooperation of Donald Rumsfeld, and it aired just before the Iraq War. The Pentagon liked what it saw. Right, the Pentagon has none of the British misgivings about its operations. It is convinced that what worked with Jessica Lynch and with others will work in the future. So yeah,
no kidding,
folks, it was Jerry Bruckheimer that sold you that. Okay, we're working with the Pentagon, folks. Okay.
That's crazy, man. I thought he was just he was the action producer. Like, man, little did we know. Like,
all these people, dude. Anybody blockbuster, they're tied to the Pentagon. Probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And actually, Jerry Bruckheimer was the producer of Enemy of the State.
There we
go. That movie features John Voight too. How about that?
Oh, and it tells us what's going on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you remember the beginning of Enemy of the State, what happens is that this is prior to 9/11. And by the way, Gene Hackman's identification card has 9/11 on it in the movie. I pointed that out on Jay's. I was one of the first posts on Jay's analysis a long time ago. I was watching Enemy of the State and I noticed that. But the movie begins with they kill one of the senators or Congress people that's in the way for the Patriot Act. Now they don't call it the Patriot Act, but it's essentially the Patriot Act. And they kill him so that they can set up the surveillance state. And so then the rest of the movie is about, Will Smith being the kind of inadvertent guy, innocent guy caught up in this whole surveillance stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So corrupt National Security Agency official John Voight's character has a congressman assassinated to assure the passage of an expansive new surveillance legislation.
Patriot Act.
What will be the Patriot Act. When a videotape of the murder ends up in the hands of Robert Clayton Dean, Will Smith's character, a labor lawyer and dedicated family man, he's framed for the murder. So there you have it.
Yeah, and Gene Hackman plays the guy who is running away from the NSA, who used to work with him, and he doesn't like him. Reynolds, and you'll see his date of birth is 9/11. I got it up on the screen.
I did like that movie. Yeah, it was good. It was intense, man. I thought Gene Hackman, he's a great actor, man. He was just intense doing that.
Yeah. Well, nobody now, even in 1997, it was still like people didn't know about the NSA. If you talked about it, that was a conspiracy theory back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it was.
Yeah, it wasn't like out there.
Yeah, it was still not known at the time as something that was a real thing for the mass public. It wasn't even known until Snowden. Like Alex Jones had been talking about it since 2002, 3, 4, and that was that's conspiracy nonsense. But for the mainstream public, they didn't even hear about it until Snowden.
Yeah, then we'd William Binney as well.
Binney, yeah, exactly. But wasn't.
Wow.
But I mean, even that was still. Yeah, you're right. Binney was. I mean, okay, so there was also, what's his name? I read his book, Puzzle Palace, and his book on the NSA. I mean, he wrote the first book on the NSA that was published in like 1983, James Bamford. But people didn't read that. Nobody knew what the NSA was.
Yeah, I see your point. Like back then, it was like what, and now we're just openly talking about JTAC, JTRIG, Joint Threat Intelligence Group. Where we're just talking about it like so nonchalantly because of the sheer amount of information that's out about these guys now.
Do you guys remember the movie Sneakers?
Yes, Robert Redford.
Yeah, and that's about the NSA having a backdoor into technology everywhere.
Oh, damn, I have to revisit these ones, dude. Just it makes it sound even more interesting now to go back and watch it.
Well, nobody knew about backdoors and the P-Tech, all that kind of stuff. The Sneakers came out in 1992, and it's about the NSA having backdoors into everything. And Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd, Ben Kingsley, River Phoenix, Sidney Poitier, quite a big name lineup there.
Wow.
Right. I remember the AT&T whistleblowers too. That was sort of like one of the early on, like pre-Snowden sort of leaks, the whistleblows that came out, and a lot of people, even when that happened, like people just didn't buy it or they didn't care. I don't know what the deal was there, but that was like, that was like a early NSA activity.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just go on a time machine, or are you guys still going?
Hey man, welcome back.
We're still going.
Did you go Make America Great Again?
And I want to remind everybody, if you are learning from us, from all of our intrepid research, tying it into the wonders of Nicolas Cage, the majesty of infotainment that we provide here, feel free to leave super chats to support us, ask us questions. I'm your master magus for the evening as we enter into the American Masonic mysteries tonight to decode them and hopefully despoil them. And I will split the super chats with my co-hosts and friends here. Thank you for that $10 there, Mr. Stam. Play Salieri. Is that okay? Let's see what that is. I'm sorry.
Hell, dude, I'll give you a couple of bucks just to do Maxine Waters right now.
Okay, let me grab my throat's getting dry. So, Italian composer Salieri. Okay, so. Okay. Maybe it was Salieri that
yeah, the guy that went against Mozart in the movie.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
Yeah, it was Salieri.
Okay. Thank you, Justin, there for that super chat. And if you guys want to chat just a little bit, I'm going to grab a drink.
Yeah, go for it, Jay.
Okay.
Yep. One of the chatters over here in the alternatecurrentradio.com chat room says Bamford's book was the first to publish the Northwoods document. I read it when it came out, so there you go. Thank you. That's old schooler right there. Northwoods. That's commonly referenced now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's incredible where we've come in terms of information, how things have sped up thanks to the advancement of technology, the internet. I mean, Jay was talking about NSA whistleblowing going on since '83. That's insane. And again, just mentioning kind of sneakers in these movies, I so want to go back and revisit this stuff and kind of do my own personal kind of decoding. They talk about the kind of like the past being kind of key or essential to understanding things in the present. I mean, it's only within the past couple of years that I've realized from the UK perspective here. I'm sure people have heard of the NSA equivalent in the UK. It's called GCHQ, or it's nicknamed the Donut, and it's based at a place called Chelmsford, which is not too far from London. But if you are within the 50-mile receptive radius of that area, you're going to get your information scooped by them. So you've got to be like 50 miles outside of there not to get picked up in terms of your GSM network, which is that's it, dude. It's like, I mean, if they're not plugging like T1 connections, which they do over here, they're like plugged right into vast flops of information. They're going to pull your your GSM activity if you're within their radius, you know. So, but yeah, you know, we've only picked up this stuff within the last couple of years, I guess, thanks to, you know, Assange, Vault 7, and Edward Snowden.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that Hollywood will make movies like about Snowden, and I don't know, I have like mixed emotions about how to take that. You know, we went and saw that, and you know, they did a decent job with it.
I didn't see it.
It's like I don't know. I almost feel like once something is put into Hollywood, I think Hollywood has this figured out too. It's part of their, you know, the way they roll when it comes to predictive programming and stuff. But I mean, I felt like the Snowden movie, and I'm blanking on the name of it now, but the movie about
Assange.
Is there an Assange movie?
Yeah, there is. It was Benedict Cumberbatch was Assange in that movie. Yeah, Assange begged him not to do it, but yeah, they went ahead, did it anyway.
I haven't even seen that one. I didn't even know there was an Assange movie. I'm gonna have to add that to my list. But I was thinking about the financial movie about the crash. God, I'm blanking. I think it had Christian Bale in it.
Christian Bale. Whoa.
I think.
You're talking about the one with
I think you're right.
The one with Steve Carell, or a different one?
I think I had them both.
Yeah, I think it did. But it just seems like they, when they make these movies now, it's like, well, okay, you know, this made it into the news, so we'll make a Hollywood dramatization out of it, and then everybody will just forget about it. You know, It's like it's they make it not be news and not be, you know, something outrageous that people should basically be rebelling against, you know, standing up against.
Here we go, full circle.
Yeah,
like
right.
Nic Cage in the 9/11 movie.
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh, dude, good job, Randy.
Oh my God. Yeah, and Charlie Sheen did that as well recently. You know, and Charlie Sheen's one of those guys that's supposed to be, you know, Alex Jones's buddy and a bit of a truther, to use a term I don't like, but
that was last year, wasn't it? That movie was released, I think. Yeah.
Pretty recently. Yep. And it's like, just take, you know, an atrocity against, you know, all that is good in humanity and freedom, and turn it into entertainment. It's like, well, yeah, we screwed you, you know, the new world order, the globalists, whatever. The bankers, they fucked you, and now you're going to pay $20 to go take your girlfriend to see a movie about it.
Speaking of
The Big Short.
The Big Short.
That's it, Big Short. Speaking of movie predictive programming, I think I mentioned this on somebody else's thing, but some other show. But when there was still the thought that there would be a Hollywood Decoded season 2, I had to write the script for the second season. And I got a bunch of it done, even though there won't be one. But I wrote all these. I wrote like 100 pages of script for a season 2. There's we were going to do The Conversation. Have you guys seen that Gene Hackman movie? It's pretty famous.
It's been a while, but I got to see that one.
Yeah, so
I think I saw it when it was new.
Quite old, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old movie.
Old school tech of like phone listening devices.
Yeah, it's a surveillance movie. Yeah. Exactly, and but the weird part about it is that it came out right before Watergate, and at the time, if you go to the articles on The Conversation, people notice this is so crazy because this movie parallels everything that happened in the Watergate surveillance, and they're talking about how it seemed to predict everything that went down with Watergate. Yeah,
that's nuts. I'd never thought of it in that context, but that's spooky.
Yeah, that's why. And it was actually Jay Widener who's the one that told me that. And he was like, that's why we got to do The Conversation in season 2. And I was like, holy crap, I didn't even know that. But it's a Coppola film too. Here we go. Back to Nic Cage. We're at like 2 degrees. Everything is 2 degrees. Talk about 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, dude. Everything's fucking 2 degrees from Nic Cage.
For real.
Yeah.
And so The Conversation, it says, let me find the part about Watergate. It's a weird movie, too, by the way. Yeah. The plot revolves around the surveillance expert and the moral dilemma he faces when his recordings catch a potential murder. Coppola cited the 1966 film Blow Up as a key influence. However, since the film was released in theaters a few months before Nixon resigned as president, he felt that audiences would interpret it to be a reaction to Watergate. Am I wrong? Was it after Watergate? Let's see when it came out. Let me make sure I'm right here.
Even if it was after, it still has that same effect I'm thinking of with The Big Short and Snowden.
Where it reveals things, yeah.
Yeah, like it reveals it, and everybody walks away going, "Oh yeah, I'm so woke about how this all happened." But then there's this like steam valve effect. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Well, I guess I'm wrong. It's not before. It's after Watergate, but prior to Nixon's resignation. So I was wrong about that, but. Okay. It does still have the revelatory aspect of him being a private surveillance guy who catches dirty deeds going on that relate to basically the deep state.
I find a lot of these spy movies over the years, I mean, going way back, interesting because they're sort of hit or miss whether the agency overall is ran by something good. Sometimes it's they have the character where they're like, it's for, I got to do it, it's my job, it's for nation or whatever. So they could be kind of dark sometimes, but they typically have the good person against the deep state. Like they're in too deep and they're working for the deep state, but then they realize
right.
It's all for nefarious reasons and one man on the run. You know what I mean? It's like they really go the extra length to make people say, oh well, it's good people. And you hear this repeated in the media a lot. Oh well, the rank and file, the media's out, the day-to-day rank and file, boots on the ground type people in these organizations, they're okay. It's the people up top that you got to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the movie they play to that too, and it's sort of the same disarming effect, I think, where people look at it and go, that's in the movies. It can't be like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're always talking about the one. You're going to be saved by the one. That's the hero mythos, but they also give the impression, I think we've talked about, right? They always give the impression that the government is just a few bad apples, right? Like there's not systemic corruption. It's a few bad apples, and the hero, stands up to the few bad apples, which, it's not really true.
We're just one election away from fixing everything, people. So just hang in there.
It's always, and every election is the most important. America hanging in the balance. It's always that way.
Yeah, that whole bad apple, and they always have the white hat or the cowboy or someone in there who offsets it, and make like the way they depict the FBI in so many Hollywood things.
Exactly.
Is hilarious to me. It's like especially the FBI. I mean, I was just watching this great video that somebody dropped in the ACR chat the other night, and it's about it's called Spygate: Collusion Scandal Bigger Than Watergate. Those involved to take down Trump. It's I recommend it. I'll link it on a show page later on, but it goes through like all of the cast of characters that have been involved in the demonization of Trump and the creation of the Russiagate scenario. And I mean, what a sick, twisted, like top-down, corrupt organization that is. And it's so funny that, especially progressives and liberals, who claim to hate cops, they want to lean on the FBI as some sort of altruistic,
that's a good point.
holier than thou organization that's going to save the world from racism and misogyny and Trump and all the things that Trump supposedly represents to them. And it's like, man, look at this organization. Look at all of the horrible things they've been involved with. Look at all of the unsolved cases that assassinations. I mean, look at Lavoy Finicum and what happened up there in Oregon. It's like, and there's that organization right there in the middle of all that. So it just cracks me up that these people want to look up to the FBI. And then the way Hollywood portrays it, it's like, you know, you just always have all these good guys in the FBI. And
Yeah.
PR machine, dude. They're constantly trying to repair their image like all the time, even from the UK perspective over here. Like, like the Metropolitan Police Force over here, they're just a bunch of shitlords in there as well. And it's like trying to frame all spooks as being like, good men and women. I mean, over here again, I mean, that's absolute horseshit. I mean, and that's been the case for many, many decades now.
Yeah, right. I had to add to Esoteric Hollywood too. I came across some articles discussing, everybody talks about CIA, Pentagon relationship to Hollywood and funding, but we forget also FBI. The FBI has a big foot, like Hester's saying, into film and TV, and there were multiple reports in the last year talking about how it was countless TV shows, right, have been paid to have pro FBI stuff in it too. And then when you watch all the stuff, it's obvious. It's like, oh yeah, well it's everywhere. Like all the heroes, right?
Yeah.
I bet you Mindhunter was directly consulted by FBI.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Shows like 24, Homeland Security. I mean, basically all of these organizations, whether it's through the Pentagon or whatever, funding, they all seem to have their PR wings like heavily invested in Hollywood productions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even over here in the British film and entertainment industry, I've personally met one individual who they say they formerly worked for the Domestic Security Services, better known as MI5 over here. But I think that's bullshit. I think they personally, still are. It kind of goes back to that kind of saying that people joke about KGB, once KGB, always KGB, that kind of thing. Well, today that would be kind of, FSB. But I do know for a fact that British intelligence actively hire within the arts, film, entertainment industries,
sure,
over here in Britain, and actors, singers, dancers, all these kind of people, these workers, they are they're like useful tools for the for intelligence and the establishment for their 15 seconds of fame or whatever it is they want.
Mm-hmm. You want to hear Maxine Waters? I got to hear her talk for a second.
That's going to be a hard one to do without taking a big hit off the crack cocaine pipe first.
Your voice is crazy, dude. It's like...
It is.
I even tried to do it earlier on. I was just like, no,
let me see if I can try it. Let's try this.
If we can't protect the children, we can protect everybody. You see them, you find a cop at a restaurant and a department store. You tell them, you create a gasoline station trauma story. You create a crowd. You push back on them and you tell them we are not welcome.
I kind of lost it myself there. That
was good, man. That was good.
Let's see. Let me hear it one more time.
We can't protect the children. Camera.
It wasn't bad. It was my first try.
A gasoline station.
You create a crowd.
Says this psycho. Oh my God. So Maxine Waters, if anyone doesn't know, she is the congresswoman for California's 43rd congressional district, and that district is centered in South Los Angeles counties and includes portions of L.A., Carson, and Torrance, and the entirety of Hawthorne, Lawndale, Gardenia, Inglewood, and Lomita. And if you go to YouTube and type in like driving through 43rd district, I think there's some videos you can see of just what her district looks like. And the fact that this crazy old batshit crazy Skexy woman is up, trying to promote violence, political violence like that is it's ridiculous, first off, but it's almost not surprising if you look at the state of her district. I mean, there are parts, it's a hellhole. I mean, it may as well be like some sort of Mad Max heroin apocalypse war zone. And the fact that this woman thinks that she should be out there giving people advice about how to behave politically is just disgusting to me, because it's just like, look at your own fucking backyard first, you crazy bitch.
That's from the Washington Post YouTube channel, and it's got like 70,000 views, and it has almost all thumbs down. It's awesome to if you go and you look at the mainstream channels, how many thumbs down they get. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. They're not doing a very good job at like cooking those numbers.
Well, like Patrick was saying on Sunday Wire recently, like that's why they had to shut down all the comments on all these mainstream media websites, is that nobody buys the bullshit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they do themselves a disservice by letting people openly comment on a lot of this garbage.
Oh, well, Con Air. Move on to Con Air. Are you guys still with me? Getting tired? How you feeling?
I'm with you, man. Okay. Let's do it.
All right. Bays Nation.
Let's go.
Bays Nation for $2. Thank you, Bays Nation. Appreciate that. And again, we are accepting super chats. So let me pull up a Con Air image. Now, this is an interesting one because I personally think Con Air is kind of satire. It's hard to see that this is an action movie taking itself seriously. I don't really think it is. I kind of think it's satire. It's so goofy. When was the last time you guys watched Con Air?
When it came out in the movies.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
dude, you guys.
I'm gonna say 1997 when it came out, probably.
Dude, you guys are in for a treat, man. This is some. I was working on my John Malkovich too, so I got a little bit I'm going to try a little bit of John Malkovich. If you don't recall, he is the mastermind serial killer leader of what is portrayed as a band of the devil's apostles. And this actually does come up in the film. I'm not exactly sure why. It's kind of bizarre, but they talk about the Last Supper, and they talk about the Bible Sunday school song. He's got the whole world in his hands. For whatever reason, this comes up quite a bit in the movie. I still haven't exactly figured out why. But if you don't recall, Nic Cage is a soldier, a ranger. Okay, so immediately the film begins with military ranger propaganda. It tells you about the history of the Rangers and how important they were and how good they are. So keep in mind, this is Jerry Bruckheimer, right, who worked with Rumsfeld, right? So it's military propaganda. That's why they're trying to sell you on, Nic Cage, the super ranger hero.
But he's also ex-con, right?
No.
Is he the hero? Who's
What
the
happens is he is at a bar drinking after he's got off. He's off duty, right? So he served his whatever stint. He's off. His wife meets him at the bar, and he's back from being on leave or something. Like he's been overseas or something. So he's back. So these redneck dudes are provoking him. These drunk dudes are like, "You're the reason we lost Vietnam, you puss." And Nic Cage cannot do a very good Southern accent. I will give him points. I'm from the South, so anybody from the South who hears people trying to do Southern accents in Hollywood, like you can immediately spot when they can't do it. It's pretty funny. They sound really funny to you if you're from the South. And Nic Cage he's not the worst, but he's not that good, and it's kind of funny when he does it. And by the way, coupled with his preposterous lines in this movie, it's full of 90s, action hero one-liners that are the pits. Arnold is hands down the worst at this. Like any of Arnold's one-liners are the total bottom of the barrel, but Nick's running pretty close. Yeah, the Stallone and Arnold are the worst. Nick's not that bad, but he's got some bad ones. But he can't do a Southern accent, so he's like talking to his wife and to these rednecks in this very bad. He's almost sounds like he's trying to talk like Elvis or Billy Graham, right, when he's talking. And so what happens is that he gets into a fight with these guys who start, like pulling his girlfriend's sweater or dress or something, right? And here's a weird thing, Hesh. You remember in Wild at Heart, the scene at the club when the metal band is playing and they drop the cigarette?
Yes.
And there's the exact same scene in this.
You better apologize to my girl.
That's what happens. Yeah, they're in the bar, and he's like, you better apologize for talking to my lady in that tone. So he gets into a fight, and because he's a special ops, black ops guy, he either kills or seriously maims one of the dudes. So the judge gives him 7 years because as a special operations person, he is no longer a normal civilian, but a deadly weapon. So then the movie convinces it moves to showing him in prison. And by the way, every prison movie, have you ever noticed this? How anytime somebody enters prison, the entire prison whistles about butt humping them.
Yeah.
And I've never been to a prison. Hopefully, thank God, hopefully I won't be in a prison. But is this true? I mean, has anybody ever actually walked in? Do you immediately get whistled and like, are you like on the chopping block for the entire prison to butt hump you? Or is this like a Hollywood thing?
I don't know. I think it's a Hollywood thing, but geez, this is a great question. I've wondered that before.
And another thing, have you noticed the Hollywood version of prison? There's always a prison riot, and the whole place just goes to hell, and it's like a total, yeah. So that happens. So you see that. Anyway, so he's sitting there, and he's writing love letters to his daughter, who he's never seen, of course, right? So his wife gives birth. He's, I guess, pretty high detention because we don't know why he's never seen his daughter. Like, does he not get visitation days? I don't know. But so he exchanges some very preposterous dialogue with his daughter. And they tell him that if he pleads, here's the funny part. They tell him if he would just plead guilty, he would get out early. But he's so principled as a ranger. He says, I will not plead guilty to a crime I did not commit. So he's so principled, and we're going to see this throughout the film, that he is so principled and such a do-gooder that he will even risk his life, not just to save his atheist black buddy who doesn't have insulin, who's also a killer, by the way, convict. He's willing to risk his life for the stuffed bunny for his daughter.
I remember this now.
Yes, this is the best part of this, right? Dave Chappelle is also great in this because he's supposed to be the comic relief. Very bizarre, though. Like if you remember, he gets ejected out of the plane and lands on somebody's car, and Nic Cage has written a message to the FBI on his T-shirt.
Oh, yes.
It's really just wacky, dude. I mean, the whole movie is so over the top and wacky that, anyway, so we have all the tropes and whatnot. Let's see here. There's a great scene where he's reading the letters from his daughter while he's in prison, and she writes him a letter. She says, "Dear Dad, I just started preschool. We have playtime. Blah blah blah." And it's him writing letters back. He's like, "Dear Casey, we don't exactly have playtime here in prison like you, but we do have fun." And it's him like in the yard, you know. You gotta watch it. Anyway, so long story short, the FBI and the CIA and the DEA, all of the government agencies are basically having to work together because the inmates are being aided by a drug lord, I think, who's working with John Malkovich, who's the mastermind of this whole thing. And a couple bizarre things that pop up, one of which is the idea that John Cusack has a line where he implies that these serial killers and madmen are products of the system. And one of the guys is like, "Are you implying that our system and the incarceration system is intended to create these creatures?" And John Cusack kind of backs off. I'm not really saying, but he kind of does say that. And so they include Steve Buscemi as the serial killer who murders kids. You've got Ving Rhames as the Black Panther, wants to kill all the white people. You've got the prisoners who are the Aryan Brotherhood, and then you've got Nic Cage and the other people, right? So what I'm getting at is that the prison industrial complex is also a system that is controlled. It's like the black markets, it's like mafias, it's like cartels, and this is even subtly in the movie. Do you see what I'm getting at? Like it's telling you that, and I don't know if you guys have ever looked into like the whole prison scam system and how that's a big college for learning how to be a crook. Basically, is what happens when people go to prison. They learn how to become, drug dealers. They learn scams and this kind of stuff. I just watched a documentary that was really good this week on Sam Giancana, recommended to me by Jay's Analysis listener, reader, who was the Chicago mobster guy. He learned all his scams in prison. Well, he learned some before, but when he went to prison, he got like a whole other education and like all these other scams you could run.
Con college.
Exactly. So this is what the private prison industrial complex is a con college, and you kind of get this impression when you watch Con Air. Hence the name of the movie, Con Air, right?
Yeah.
And let's see, where was I going with this? I haven't really figured out the Last Supper. He's got the whole world in his hands stuff yet. So I've only watched the movie recently in the last couple of years. So I don't know what's up with that, but very bizarre recurring stuff there. They end up at Lerner Airfield, Lerner Base, which is curious, which again, I would think suggests things perhaps about military intelligence. I don't know. And the connection to the usage of serial killers in the military. I don't know. Let's see. But basically, I think to Randy's point earlier, what you get, the narrative here is that the heroes like the Rangers and the FBI, DEA, they're all fighting to save us from all the evil serial killers that are everywhere, right? So I'm detecting the kind of Dave McGowan type thesis here, right? Like, look at what we're saving you from. Look at what. If we didn't have Nic Cage there, you would have Steve Buscemi, scalping your kids. you would have.
Right. It's almost like a Marvel Avengers, like eclectic group of super killers.
Good point. It is
different killer power.
It does. Oh, that's a great point. It has the supervillain mystique and ethos to it, and it's so over the top that it really is. It's almost tempting to see it as satirical, but yeah, it's a great point. It's like Satan gathers together like the
his all-stars,
his all-star team, exactly. And
what was the name of the group again, Jay? The Devil's Disciples or something like that?
What's that now?
What was the name of the group as a whole? The Devil's something or
Do they
another?
they may have a name. I can't remember. Let's see.
Or am I getting this mixed up with something else you were saying earlier? I might be.
Let me see. They may have a name. I don't know. It's just Con Air. I mean, like John Malkovich keeps making a joke about that, but
okay, but yeah, they're. I mean, you got the hacker guy, the serial killer, Hannibal Lecter type guy. I mean, almost like they're.
It's like a team.
Right? I mean,
it's like a team of evil black ops, basically, like the Devil's Special Forces or something.
Yeah.
And Nic Cage is the reverse Judas. That might be why he sends these coded messages to John Cusack, right? Like the message on Dave Chappelle's T-shirt. and then he sends another coded message to John Cusack that has a picture of Jesus in the Last Supper with like the eyes cut out. And John Cusack somehow figures out how to lay this over some piece of a paragraph of text or something. And like when you look through the holes, it shows you the words. And so in other words, Nic Cage knows ciphers and cryptograms, and he's sending this because of his military stuff. He's sending this to John Cusack, and it's really preposterous. But what I'm saying is that you do have what you're saying there, that this idea that that if we didn't have the giant bureaucracy that we do have, and the giant police state that we do have, this is what we would be dealing with on a daily basis, right? We would just have total mayhem. We'd have, basically
Con America.
yeah, we'd have a giant, America would be a giant prison trying to butt hump everybody.
Gangs of Steve Buscemi's
Running around.
laser blades in everybody's food.
Exactly.
Right? Well, I mean, that thing's played up too with movies like Escape from New York and the Judge Dredd, the recent one, anyways, with both of them. But I actually liked the new one with Urban, Carl Urban, I think. Yeah, underrated movie, I think.
Yeah, violent, ultra violent, but good.
Yeah. So it's definitely propaganda. So over the top, it could be argued is satirical. And not everything that Jerry Bruckheimer has made has been bad. No way. I'm thinking of. Did you guys see the? I always get him mixed up at times with Michael Bay. Did you see the Michael Bay movie about the Benghazi thing?
Oh, I skipped it. That was
yeah. Well, no, actually, it was supposedly it told the truth. Like it was good enough that Mark Hackard wrote a review of it.
Oh wow!
So supposedly it told the truth for whatever. I haven't seen it, so I can't recall. But
well, if it even gets close, they're sort of breaking the mold. That's probably why a lot of us wrote it off. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go see that.
I figured it was. I figured it'd be like the Bin Laden movie or something,
You would think so. That's why I avoided it too. I thought it was going to be like that. Let's see.
Did the movie with the guys on the train in Paris, France come out yet? Where it's actually starring them?
Oh no! Are you serious? Oh my god!
I skipped it for the same reason.
And it came and went. It just totally.
Wow.
There was, wow, yeah.
That's
hey,
crazy.
here's a fun trivia. John Cusack dislikes Con Air so much that he refuses to be interviewed about it.
Does he say why?
Nope, it just says he just dislikes it.
All right, real briefly here, checking in on the election. The exit polls show a dim wave supposedly building. However, Clinton campaign managers and Dems are cautioning against getting excited because exit polls might break hearts.
They know best.
All right. So they're claiming split down the middle, 50-50. Let's see. Nearly two-thirds said President. Yeah, so the mainstream media, let's see who the sources for all this is. Yeah, this is all mainstream media. Of course, they're like calling out. I mean, I don't really care. I'm just watching it for, because everybody's watching it and talking about it. All of the mainstream media is claiming that the Trump wave is done. So, but they did the same thing when Trump won. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. They're really trying to control the narrative. I'm looking at I've been watching 538.com today, and it looks from their site like there's a 7 and 8 chance that the Democrats win the House and a 4 and 5 chance that the Republicans keep control of the Senate.
Wait, say that again.
Well, basically, they're saying that it's looking like the forecasts are saying that the Dems are going to take the House and that the Republicans are going to keep the Senate.
Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
Did you see that they had supposedly So, quote, neo-Nazis robocalled the black woman running in Georgia.
No.
Yeah, okay. And so...
Of course they did.
Yeah, right.
Of course they did.
And can you guess what they said? Very mean, racist things.
I'm shocked.
And why did they do it? Because Oprah came and campaigned for her. So...
Oh, geez.
Yeah, call me crazy if I don't immediately believe that one. Anyway,
I saw a good one. They're saying that people put up fake signs in Seminole County, Florida. So someone went out trolling and put up what appeared to be Democrat signs that said things like "Abolish ICE, vote Democrat," and "Open our borders, vote Democrat," and "Democratic socialism, vote Democrat." And
right.
The funny thing is, like, I'm sure they weren't actual, Democratic Party sanctioned signs, but I mean, are they really wrong?
No, I mean, did you see? I think a couple outlets called out Beto for their campaign, saying they were going to give money to the caravan. They were trying.
Yeah.
They were doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, they got caught. Project Veritas did this
Yes,
big undercover thing on them and caught them, like, trying to like buy water for them and get them vans to use and stuff like that.
And it was the reason of being campaign money, not just like, being nice,
Right.
but they were trying to funnel campaign money, which, if I recall, Beto got like pretty extensive amounts of money from, the same old culprits, I think. The Soros
he did.
types,
He got
didn't he?
More, yeah, he got way more money than he needed. And it's not just sort of a, oh, haha, that's a very Democrat thing to do. That's illegal. That's straight up illegal based
That's
on
the
campaign
point.
law.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. I should have mentioned that.
So, I mean, he didn't do it himself, but
Right.
I mean, his high-ranking staffers did, and I'm sure they probably won't get in trouble for it, or if they do, they'll get a slap on the wrist. But it was pretty damning, the video that Project Veritas pulled.
When talking about the election, when you were saying it looks like early projection or whatever, but just theoretically,
Well, they said that.
I want to ask something.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Randy.
If they win, who's gonna? It's looking like what and what? You mentioned it already, Hesher.
It's looking like the House of Congress might be won back by the Democrats, and that the Senate will be held by the Republicans.
Which means they, if I'm not mistaken, they would not be able to impeach.
Correct.
Then that's a victory right there.
Yeah.
That's a victory right there, because I really think that's all they want to do. I mean, looking at it the last couple of years, they've had no other real message except for racism and whatever. But I mean, they've are accusing it or just throwing it out there, making the word almost meaningless. But that to me seems like it's been their singular objective, is to get him out ahead of time, followed by at least basically having a 2-year standoff before the next presidential election. That would be their secondary victory if they could at least get that.
Yeah, it was a platform item for a lot of Democrats running. You know what I mean? They were, which is such a troll too, because they knew dang well they weren't going to get the Senate. So the whole thing is just like advertising fodder for liberals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beto is unbelievable. That guy is ridiculous. Can you believe that he's like, yeah. Go ahead.
He's just, he ridiculous is a great word for it. Riding his skateboard in and what a clown. Yeah, this Robert O'Rourke. So we've got a Irish blooded white dude. And he so on Sunday here in Austin, he did his final rally at a park here, and he launched into his speech in Spanish. So it's like his audience was mostly like progressive Austinite white people, and most of them probably couldn't even understand what he was saying for the first part of his opening speech there. So it's really funny, but I gotta hand it to him. He is doing a bang up job, like kind of trying to play the moderate role, like he's trying to appeal to Republicans.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's trying to pull in the blue and the more centrist Republicans, and he pretends he's Second Amendment friendly. But I've looked into his Second Amendment platform, excuse me, and it's really bad. I mean, the guy he's not a supporter of the Second Amendment. He pretends to be, but he's really not.
You know who talked down the middle before he got in is Barack.
Yeah.
He talked down the middle before he got in, but was anything but.
There are serious echoes of Barack with Beto. I'm actually very concerned about his political career in the next 10 years just because of the similarities I'm seeing between him and early Barack.
Yeah, I think Patrick made that point too. He was talking about the similarities of the talking point here, and this is really what happens in politics: is people talk the game, and then things are different once they're in.
Right.
Trojan politicians, man, look like one thing, get inside the gates, and then just release hordes on the masses.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to bail out of Con Air there. Let's continue.
No, that was pretty much the essence of Con Air. I mean, I think I just kind of took a brief step over to look at what was going on with all this political drama. So too early to tell anything, but the Dems are celebrating already. So it's to me it reminds me of the Trump campaign. Like they were already claiming Hillary had won and all this stuff, and nothing had even. It was way too early, and they were already saying, "Oh, Hillary's got it. Hillary's got it." You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that you'd think they would learn their lesson and use a little more forbearance in celebrating after what happened 2 years ago.
Right. No, they don't operate that way. But
no, it's a party. They're all wasted by now.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's only 7 p.m. where I am, but yeah, exactly.
It's funny. This article I'm reading about Beto's his appearance here is his final rally that he held in Austin. It says there were way more people with dogs on leashes than families with kids.
Exactly right.
Yep.
That's a good point. Speaking of that caravan thing, this is something that also has turned up this week. I shared a couple good articles that explain this, which is now people have known this. It didn't just turn up this week. It turned up to me this last few weeks. Because if I'd have thought about it, it would have been obvious. And it was somebody, I think Jesse Russell, who was on with Tim Kelly, did a really in-depth analysis of how part of the problem with the open borders is the churches. And so what's happened is that a lot of the churches are being given money by the foundations, Soros-type entities. They're accepting money to support open borders and to try to be refugee places for the caravan and for the endless migration. Now, again, this is not being mean because every country in the world already has some form of legalized immigration. Okay, what's going on is an attempted psyop to destroy existing people groups, the people who already live in areas, and it's damaging to the working class. Okay, and that's the working class is not just white people. There are plenty of people in the working class who are of all ethnicities and minorities. So in other words, this open border stuff, which the left pretends and acts like is helpful to people, like they care so much. No. Guess what? 2 articles that nail this, one of which it is in Breitbart, the other of which is by Capital Research, The open borders Catholics falsified church teaching, and because they profit from it. So, in other words, they are accepting money. So don't let them pull the high ground and act like, oh, we care so much about. No. It's because the bishops, the people in the mainline, Protestant, Methodist, Lutheran, especially all the liberal ones controlled by the Rockefellers, they are accepting money for these to try to funnel it to so-called migrants, which is illegal immigration, by the way. Notice how they crafted that term to be migrants.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just another important angle to realize that all these establishment leftist churches, almost all of which are bought off, you will see they're all promoting this, and it's not because of humanitarianism. It is 100% because they're paid to.
Yeah. That's messed up. And another thing that is never noted by the mainstream media is that there are a lot of red voting Hispanic people in Texas and all over the place. I mean, they try to treat those people like they don't exist, and in fact, there's a lot of them.
Yes, let me see this article here. Let's see. Open borders. Churches get money. Money for open borders. Religious charities profiting from open borders. You bet they are. Let's see.
Oh yeah. They're like schools, or police departments. They'll take federal money or foundation money
yes, exactly.
NGO money.
Now
they'll take it.
Oh, now that's an old one. That's interesting. That's a 4-year-old article. I want to find one that's more recent here. Here we go. Capital. This is the one I was looking at yesterday. Capital Research. It says, now obviously the most super liberal churches are all involved in this, but it's not just them. Refugee resettlement, the lucrative business of serving the immigrants. Exactly. So surveys of Americans show mixed views on immigration. For the left, all immigration is good no matter what laws or legislatures say. There should be no open borders, generally speaking. Major donors on the left, which normally champion every kind of government regulation, however, support immigration without limits, generally. And a number of large nonprofits reap not only private funding, but millions of tax dollars in the resettlement business. This is great. Most Americans have never heard of all the programs that disperse monies in their name. And so it goes on to talk about, I'll put the link up here for this, all of these different agencies, this refugee program. And let's see, if you doubt me, well, let's see who's involved in this. Let's listen to some of these usual suspects, and you see if you think they're the good guys, okay? The Ford Foundation, the Bauman Foundation, the Gill Foundation, the Open Society Institute. Have we ever heard of that one before?
The Open Society Institute?
No, we have never heard of that one. Tides Foundation. No. Yeah, Patrick's talked about Tides Foundation many times.
Yep.
Now there's a whole bunch of them. It's just I'm scrolling through here ones that I've heard of. Catholic Charities, Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, International Rescue Committee, World Relief, Lutheran Immigration Refugee Services, U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigration, Episcopal Immigration Services, on and on and on. There's endless versions of these. And yes, it is a scam. So again, it's important to not let leftists have the moral high ground, because that's what they think gives them all their power. They have all this moral high ground, and they're not even moral. They're awful people, generally speaking.
There's an interesting thing I've been thinking about today. I know you both have noticed it in your own way, probably. The old election heat map. If you look at them, even in a state like Indiana or even Boise, Idaho, or a state like Idaho, I notice that you'll see blue, liberal, or I would even say these days leftist voting people congregates near high population cities, even in places that don't traditionally vote liberal. They're the cities, the metropolises, even if it's only 300,000 or 500,000 or a million, as compared to something like L.A. or something like that, or Dallas, even Austin. Those areas in states that you wouldn't even think, and I think this is newer. I think this is like the last 15 to 25 years, are starting to like go Democrat or blue.
Right.
And I think that that's very weird, or not weird. I think that's very. I don't think that bodes well, because it's something that, well, a lot of different, I'm just going to say Agenda 21 type stuff or whatever. It seems like it's easier to vote in, or it's easier to get a lot of these, I'll call them low information voters, to just vote for the give me, ballot issue. Give me something.
Sure.
And just basically give away, a liberty or whatever in exchange for some sort of government handout. And that's how they're getting votes. And that's what they're doing in a lot of these cities.
Oh,
and that's how
absolutely.
they're getting elections.
Yeah, it's not hard to figure out that's an actual strategy of bringing in these individuals to co-opt them and have them on the government dime. And because these individuals will immediately be received under the auspices of charity, what will happen is they're going to stay on the Democratic plantation. So it's not hard to figure it out. It's a real basic plan. And that's why all these churches were bought off, is that the churches are going to function as, we've all heard about refugee cities, but the churches are going to function as refugee outlets everywhere to help resettle all of these people. And any country has a limit on the number of immigrants that they can bring in. And that's why, sensible immigration makes sense. That's why that's what's the norm. That's what, Trump's always talked about. That's actually what, if you can go back to old Hillary and Bill talks on immigration. They said the exact same thing that Trump's saying about what should be the case in following the law. So the fact that the radical left and these kinds of individuals who are at the behest of the foundations, and they don't even know it, they're too stupid to know it, except for their paid off leaders, the Maxine Waters types, they know it because they get money for it. And the people that run these fake denominations get money for it. They're just tools. So again, this is, people always talk about the Marxists. It is, but the dumb Marxists are the tools of these billionaire foundations. And once you start figuring out that these same foundations fund all the same stuff, it all starts to fall into place. You realize that that's who's controlling things. That's who's doing it. It's the same people in the Bilderberg Trilateral Commission CFR graph of the media. The same people that fund those media institutions fund this stuff.
Right. Yep. I was thinking about that too, Jay. Like, I was looking at old footage of Bill Clinton speeches and even Chucky Schumer, you name it. You go back, you don't have to go back all that many years to see them saying exactly the same things that Trump says about the border and immigration. And these people these days, these leftists, progressive these days, that are so mad that Hillary didn't get it in, it's like, what the hell? I mean, they took their same, definitions and judgments that they apply now, the people that they currently worship, would be racists and Nazis for what they had said, a decade ago.
It just shows you how fake it is, because that was back at a time when they still relied upon the middle class, the working class. And so, right. For example, somebody was pointing out about Michael Moore. If you go back to his Roger and Me, his first documentary, it's about the working class being screwed over by NAFTA. and which is true. Now he's completely reversed his position. He's anti-Trump and pro-NAFTA because he's pro-Hillary and all that. And so you see that the same stuff that what you're talking about with these Democrats with their positions on the middle class. They've completely abandoned the middle class, sold them out. The unlimited immigration that they want will hurt mainly the middle class, and it's not just low wage jobs. Low wage jobs are for people who don't have skills to then get skills to get better jobs. Right? We talked about this on one of the boiler rooms where we had kind of an interesting discussion about whether or not, people who are 15, 16, 17 teenagers actually do the low skilled jobs so that they can get better skills later. And almost everybody, my age did that growing up. You had that kind of a low wage job until you worked your way up. That's just the nature of how it is. And it is absolutely true that many of those jobs are being taken by illegal immigration, and it's very damaging to not just business owners who are small business owners, but because they have to go for the cheapest wages. They can pay lower, right? Especially labor jobs, right? That kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's very popular in the South. A lot of kids, a lot of guys used to do those kind of summer labor jobs that now it's all Mexicans that do it.
Right, and a big part of that, with regards to the employers and the voters and the strategy of the Democrats, is the fact that the middle class has dwindled down to such a small number. I mean, what appears to be the middle class in America now is more of the credit debt class.
Exactly, that's a good point. Yeah.
So those businesses that are able to maintain themselves in the appearance of middle class or brick and mortar mom and pop sort of thing, it's increasingly difficult for them to compete and survive as a business without taking the lowest pay wage workers that they can possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's driving out a lot of our youth class.
Exactly. Well, I'm kind of we've almost gone for, we've gone for almost 3.5 hours.
Wow. Hey, go us.
We did we got a decent amount of super chats here. I guess this election stuff's going to go on into the night endlessly forever. But are you guys wearing down? I'm kind of wearing down a little bit.
Yeah, let's wind down. Let's take care of any super chats you got and work our way out.
Let's see. We got Bad Mutta, $20. I went to my first Orthodox service, and I thought it was beautiful. My wife and I are Catholic, and she thinks Orthodox Vespers is long and weird, but I'm being dumb for pushing this. Any lady advice? No, I would say just keep at it, because most Catholic services are not beautiful. So I think she will find the Orthodox liturgy to be more beautiful and probably more masculine. I mean, the Orthodox chant is much more masculine. So Bad Mutta, I would say try to impress her with masculinity if you want to steer her away from the light and the loafers Novus Ordo circles. Scott Morris, $10. Coming in late, it would be cool if you had an Orthodox Christmas stream. I think you mean this year. Yeah, that's a good idea. We could try to do that. Although, of course, Orthodox services for Christmas go really, really late into the night. So it'd have to be perhaps in the day, but I will keep that in mind, Scott. Thank you also for the music that you sent earlier in the show, which I did some improv singing to, dedicating them to Ben Shapiro, Nic Cage, and America. William Kane,
right.
$15. Great stream, Jay Dyer and the Boiler Room crew. I want to ask everybody for prayers. St. Michael the Archangel protect us and stop the enemies of Christendom, Enlightenment ideology, and all of its isms. Well, I agree with you, William Kane. Michael Kane. I agree with you, Michael Kane. Stop the enemies of Christendom. Master Wayne. Anyway, a little bit of Michael Kane coming through for William Kane. Excuse me. I guess we'll call it a night, and hopefully we will still have a country tomorrow, and the Antifa will not completely take over, and it won't turn into the Purge. Is it going to be the Purge tomorrow? Hesh?
Not here in Texas, man. This Beto the Beto has no freaking chance. The guy that says he sees no reason why an AR-15 should be sold to a civilian in Texas. Good luck with that, buddy.
Beta O'Rourke. That's great. It's probably, I don't know. That's the first time I heard it. That's fantastic.
So if you find yourself waking up in a Maoist state, then come on over to Texas. Just don't bring your little Maoists with you.
Good idea. And also be prepared for the 2020 run of myself and Nic Cage. We are actually both running for the office of president and both running for the office of vice president because we figured we could both do both. And we're both equally badass, so neither of us wants to be below the other one. So it's
going to be the Dyer Cage face-off.
It is. Cage Dyer 2020. I don't know. We may have to make a deal, art of the deal with Trump if he doesn't run in 2020. If Trump runs in 2020, then we might have to postpone for Cage Dyer 2024. We'll see. But I think we could beat Oprah and The Rock or
Chelsea.
whoever.
Oh.
Okay, Chelsea.
Yeah. Well, if Trump's in the running and you guys can't make it, then maybe Trump could appoint you to the Supreme Court, and that way any of the garbage that's going to come out of the House of Representatives can be blocked by the Red Senate and the Cage Dyer duo there in the Supreme Court.
It's looking like, let's see, some numbers just went up here. And, well, that's only in the South. So we got red in the South. No surprise there. Some of the first numbers are going up just now. But nobody expected the blue to take over the South. So this is the House, by the way. I think this, yeah. So Republicans will keep the House will have the House if the rest of the country suddenly becomes rednecks and Southerners like myself.
Right.
Anyway, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on the stream. We're quitting right as the numbers are rolling in, so you can see that we're not super worried. I don't think we're going to see it's not going to turn into a purge tomorrow if the Democrats take all this. They will, however, move, like Patrick said, to try to get rid of Trump for sure. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely they might, but they won't be able to do crap with
they won't.
The Senate
They won't,
being what it is.
Right. That's a good point.
It'll be hot wind and hot air. I'm really hoping that once this is over, we can put Russiagate to bed.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
Move along.
That's a good point, Hesh. That's a good point. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. God bless. Have a good election day. Remember the day after the 5th of November, and have a good night.